I'm a little rusty on it.
I'll hum it for you.
There we go. All righty. Let's get the show started, shall we? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening whenever you might be watching this. My name is Josh and welcome to my channel. On here we talk news, politics, current events, and play video games sometimes. Okay, so as you might have seen from not just the title, but from the stream announcement alert, there's not a whole lot going on today. It's kind of a bit of a, yesterday was a bit slow, but I think we found some good topics today. Leaning on YouTube videos a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Oh, this is gonna be very interesting. So, what do I have on the docket as of right now? Well, for one, I want to take a look at an article from Politico, about the current Matt Gaetz is ongoing, or did we criticize committee of opening new frivolous investigations? Yes. Apparently we have some new information on the Matt Gaetz investigation in the House. I then want to watch I guess Breaking Points is Crystal and Sagar had a little a joust, a back and forth over the deportation polling. So I kind of want to take a look at that and kind of see Crystal's actually been pretty good. Like Breaking Points I've had a funny relationship with Breaking Points. When it was rising, I did enjoy the show for a good while, but I did grow skeptical when it was still rising of how I think, what's the term I'm gonna look for? I think how just how the show was presented, and I always thought that because of the ownership of The Hill, amongst other things, it always felt like Crystal had to work a lot more towards moving towards Sagar's position, which always rubbed me a little bit of the wrong way. But lately, whenever I've tuned in, she's been a lot more strong in her position, and I think confident in her position, and not really willing to, I think, take some of the easier talking points that Sagar pushes out there that are kind of populist talking points. I feel like they lean into that whole populism thing a little bit less since going into Breaking Points, which at the end of the day, they're independent now, and it's good that they're independent. They're doing their own thing, certainly after we saw the news from Brianna Joy Gray last time. So I want to take a look at a little bit of that, and then we're gonna really like lock in here. I have a Jubilee video on the docket, pro-Trump Republicans versus anti-Trump Republicans, which certainly sounds interesting. A day like today, anybody watching, if you have any suggestions for stories, please by all means sound off in the in chat. Send in links to stuff that might be interesting to talk about. I simply just didn't really looking around this morning. I just didn't see anything that I was, not a whole lot that I was like dying to talk about. So let us get into it, shall we? So Matt Gaetz, I think we're all kind of aware of, kind of a weird, creepy looking guy, has been investigated for, I believe, child trafficking. Whoa, why did that? Am I crazy? That's like a really harsh cut. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Well, that was odd, now wasn't it? Uh-huh. Okay, let's do that. Yeah, why was that such a why was that such a hard cut? What? Hello? Is it because of this? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Right? Uh-huh. Oh, wait, huh? Okay, cool. Okay, I think I fixed it. I hope I fixed it. Let's find out. Did that? No. Do I need to like do I need to do this? And maybe increase this? Whoa, that's kind of neat. Huh. Well, that's what I'm sorry. I'm just really confused as to why that's cutting so quickly or why it's like a harsh cut instead of my nice fade that it used to be. Right? Because it's like it used to be. What was this? What is this? Hold the phone. Scene filters? No, that's not what I wanted. Well, that's odd. No, isn't it? Uh hmm. What's this? No, no, this isn't it. I did just download a new plugin, so I am sure that that's kind of messing with it. I actually am kind of like, yeah, there's like no way. There's probably no way that it's not that messing with it. Okay, whatever. We're just gonna live with it. It's fine. I mean, it's just a bit harsh. It's just a bit harsh. That's all I'm saying. I just can't help but be like, wow, that's like really. That's just really harsh. Can I? How do you do that? System tray preview. I can hear my cat outside, and she is meowing quite loudly. Okay, I'm aware. I can't tell. Okay, I think that's okay. Well, yeah, don't do that. Hmm. That's gonna bother the shit out of me. Okay, like I said, we're just gonna live with it for now. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Wait, what if I go to this? Does this also 1 second? That also cuts really quickly. I don't know why that is. Huh. 1 second. Let me. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna set that window aside. We're gonna read this, and then when we get to a video, I'll Google it on the side where you guys can't see. Anyway, all right. House Ethics gives new details on Gates' investigation. A statement from the secretive panel comes out a day after the Florida Republican publicly criticized committee after opening new frivolous investigations. All right, let's get on with it, shall we? Been wasting enough time fiddling with OBS being funny. The House Ethics Committee on Tuesday provided. Why did they go House Ethics Committee? God, that's a hard thing to say really quickly. House Ethics Committee provided new details on its ongoing investigation into. I don't need these. Into Representative Matt Gaetz a day after the Florida Republican publicly lashed out at the secretive panel. The bipartisan committee, in a statement, defended its long-running probe, saying it was, quote, confident in the integrity of the process and closed that it had. Who is that? Who is that? River, come here. Come here. Hello. Okay, fine. You come over here when you're ready. You come hang out when you're ready. Anyway, confident in the integrity of the process, and disclosed that it had conducted more than a dozen interviews, issued 25 subpoenas, and received thousands of pages of documents as part of the oh boy. Okay. Based on its review to date, the committee has determined that certain of the allegations merit continued review. During the course of the investigation, the committee has also identified additional allegations that merit review. Oh boy. The committee said it is reviewing a long list of allegations against the Florida Republican, including sexual misconduct, illicit drug use, accepting improper gifts, and obstructing investigations into his conduct. And then added that it's not taking further actions, quote, at this time, on some allegations, including that Gates shared inappropriate images on the House floor and accepted a bribe or, quote, improper gratuity. Ooh, boy. Yeah, and I hear this guy doesn't take PAC money. Okay. It's the most comprehensive accounting to date on what the notoriously private panel, which is evenly split between Democrats and Republicans. Now, okay, let's talk about this for a minute. Republicans, so it's evenly split between Republicans and Democrats. What Republicans do you think are on this board? Do you think they're the populist wing Republicans, or do you think they're more the establishment ones who already took out that one asshole in a wheelchair a couple years ago? So, Matt Gaetz, you have to assume, is probably a bit nervous about his job, considering these people already nuked another young and up and coming and uncooperative Republican congressperson. It's the most comprehensive. Typically, the committee gives only sparse details on its investigations until after they have concluded. But Gaetz had lashed out at the panel publicly the day before in a social media post, saying that he had opened, quote, new frivolous investigations into him. The Ethics Committee declined to comment on the timing of the statements, including whether it was drafted specifically as a response to Gaetz or had already been in the works. Asked about the Ethics Committee statement, a spokesperson for Gaetz referred back to the Monday post on X, noting that it, quote, speaks for itself. Gaetz has repeatedly denied any wrongdoing. Instead, he has criticized the House panel's investigation as an attempt by former Speaker Kevin McCarthy and his allies to get back at him for leading the California Republicans' ouster. Well, two things can be true at once, my friend. It can be a hit job by the former McCarthy allies. But if they find some dirt, brother, they find some dirt. I don't know what to tell you. Some of McCarthy's allies have privately suggested trying to expel Gaetz from the House, depending on the panel's ultimate findings. The House committee opened its investigation into Gaetz in 2021. It restarted its probe in May of 2023 after the Justice Department concluded its own investigation into the Florida Republican without bringing charges. Since then, there have been signs of momentum behind the scenes. Politico first reported May that the committee had subpoenaed the Justice Department for documents and records. Interesting. So, didn't this dude didn't this dude show up on Tim Pool? Let's go take a look. Let's see if he mentioned it. Gaetz? No, we're not watching. Stafford rejected for Is that it? Is it either I watched the 2-hour one or the other one? Well, that's not happening. God, he looks like why does he look like, okay, am I the only one who kind of thinks he looks like he's trying to do Max Payne face in this picture? I don't dude himself passed over for being white. What does this even mean? Matt Gaetz roasts DEI staffer. Dude himself. I don't even know what that's. Okay, whatever. Either way, so Matt Gaetz is a bit of a weirdo. So I'm not going to say I'm going to be all too shocked when we find out that Yeah, he was trafficking, sexual misconduct, also not super shocking either. Certainly not very shocking. Let's see. Okay. What is this? Wait, is there a way to do that? What is this? Keyboard shortcuts. Features, Control D keyboard shortcut lets you bookmark. Opens up history, downloads. Not all pages can be accessed via shortcut, which means Chrome doesn't monopolize. Whatever. Oh, I thought it was. That's lame. Okay, well, never show. No, just never. No, just go away. Just go away. God, fucking browsers these days, man. Okay, well, let's get in the debate then, because that sounds a little. We'll be interested to see. We'll keep an eye on the Matt Gaetz story. I guess for now, let's just get into the debate bit. I keep doing Control and it's actually not Control. It's Alt now on my keyboard and it's fucking me up. I got really used to doing Alt.
This is a big electoral issue. So economy, number one, we've seen a lot of the polling. Sometimes immigration. This now immigration, at the very least, number two, genuinely number one.
So am I the only one who thinks? Okay. Am I the only one who thinks that the reason why immigration polls really high amongst Americans is because Republicans, like, for all Republican voters, immigration is like the key issue? Like, okay, let's go take a look. Before
on for GOP voters. There's been some interesting shifts in coalitions. Let's put this up there on the screen. This was a new poll. This is a big electoral issue. So economy, number one, we've seen a lot of the polling. Sometimes immigration. This now immigration, at the very least, number two, genuinely number one for GOP voters. There's been some interesting shifts in coalitions. Let's put this up there on the screen. This was a new poll from the CBS YouGov America. This was conducted
do we have one?
June 5 to June 7.
Mass deportation is now popular. Okay. A majority of registered voters favor, quote, a new national program to deport all undocumented immigrants currently living in the United States illegally, 62. Okay. A majority of Hispanics favor mass. That's not shocking. Let's see. Hispanics are stupid too. What can I say? And people also are like, at the end of the day, you try to fit in, and if being racist helps you fit in, then favor is this. Let's see. Would you favor national deportation program? CBS News poll, June 5th to 7th. Okay, interesting. Oh, it's a YouGov poll. Okay, and we don't delineate between. Okay. What's up, VFro?
7 actually asks about mass deportation. So it says a majority of registered voters favor a, quote, new national program.
Favor. 26% liberal, 62% moderate, 88% conservative. We know that. Oppose, 38. A majority of registered voters. Well, that's not correct. The 62 to 38 is moderate voters. Liberals oppose by a pretty big margin. Yeah, these are fairly large numbers. I mean, 62 for moderates is a pretty big number. Totals 100%. Okay. How many people did the sample? In total, it's only I mean, don't get me wrong, polling is polling, but it is only polling about 1,300 people. So I don't know if that's the most reliable poll, but poll's poll.
All, quote his words, undocumented immigrants currently living in the U.S. illegally, 62 to 38%. But the real shock, I guess, to the people here in the media is that even among Hispanics, a majority of them now favor mass deportation at 53 to 47. Let's go to the next part here, because this has been an interesting trend that in the last month or so has really began to materialize, where the share of Americans who say that they support mass deportation has basically exploded over the last 4 years. So you can see there that the top general public number is at 51%. This poll is from a month ago, just by the way. And then we look at it by race and ethnicity. In this one, they found it was 56% of whites, 45% of Latinos, and 40% of Black Americans. But if you look at political affiliation, you have 68% Republican, 46% Independent, 42% Democrat, and then generationally, there is a massive split. You have boomers at 60, Gen X at 53, millennials at 48, and then Gen Z at 35. So generationally, there is a big split. But Crystal, I think that this is really upturning a lot of the ways that we're watching kind of the media and everybody else grapple with this young and Hispanic move towards Trump. And specifically also,
are we getting into this again? The whole like Hispanics for Trump nonsense? Like, understand that the whole Hispanics for Trump stuff comes from the like deep religiosity of a lot of Mexican American culture is pretty influenced by Christianity and Catholic traditions, which like there's nothing wrong with that. Like, but that at the end of the day is going to be a driving factor towards Hispanics moving towards Trump or any other like kind of Christian nationalist what am I thinking? Party, which that is what the Republican Party is at this point. But also it's not all too shocking when you have an immigrant population that's trying to assimilate and are willing to kick the ladder down for newer people to kind of solidify their position. I don't really think that's all that shocking. And like the idea that Hispanics don't fall victim to the same kind of not confirmation bias, but the same like what is it? What is it? Is it okay? Wait. What's the term? I'm trying to think of the term that people use for when like, when boomers make it and they're like, well, I made it, so like, why can't these younger kids make it? I was making 30. I just can't remember what the it's not confirmation bias, but it is survivorship bias. That's what it is. It's survivor's bias, and it's like, well, I made it through the system, why can't they? And it's like, well, not everyone just by plain numbers, not everyone makes it through the system. Not everyone can. So it's kind of one of those situations where it's not like Hispanic immigrants are incapable of performing that. They are just as capable as everybody else. So
amongst Black.
And I also don't really know how much of a move this is unless it's a move on the margins. But,
Black
we'll
Americans.
let the
Immigration politics has been flipped over really on its head, where it's both that first of all, the migrant situation today is just so out of control that, to any previous situation, it kind of, I use the Marx term, heightened the contradictions in terms of people really kind of had to choose a side. But second and foremost, the identitarian view that you could just rely on Hispanics to vote for you because you were like pro DACA or whatever, that's gone. Those ages are totally gone. Trump obviously broke that in 2020. But I mean, to me, it's such a titanic shift in the way that people are even approaching the immigrant situation, the migrant situation, and then this blows identitarianism like out of the water. And I've seen Democratic elites responding to this, being like, what happened? And it's like, well, Trump happened, honestly. Rhetoric happened, policy happened. There's been a lot of stuff that's been happening.
Well, I think there's a lot of things that go into this. First of all, you're right to note that the biggest divide there is a race divide.
Yeah.
But the biggest divide is actually age. Not race.
It's all age.
So you have older people who are, increasingly hardline on immigration, and younger people are still, in the same more open and open to increased immigration as they were, say, 4 years ago, back when the whole Democratic Party was embracing that position in opposition to Trump. So I think, number one, you do have, just a reality of an increased number of migrants. Now, that has actually gone down over the past couple of months, but notwithstanding, there has been undoubtedly a large surge of migrants under the Joe Biden administration. So that's number one. You do have reality of, okay, there's a lot of people coming in. What are we going to do? Number two, you have an increasing sense of economic anxiety. That if you look throughout history, often pairs with increased views, hardline views on immigration. So you've got that. But I also think really critical to this is the fact that, I mentioned before, Democrats under the Trump administration, they were very oppositional to the Trump immigration positioning. Now they're trying to position themselves as immigration hardliners, the overwhelming majority of, Democratic elites, starting with Joe Biden. And so you basically have both parties making a very similar argument about immigration. So I'd be curious to see, I would bet that the bulk of the movement in openness to policies such as this actually comes from Democrats, because you've got 42% of Democrats here.
So Chris was making a actually really salient argument here, and something that, like, a lot of people push back on when it comes to Democrats and their messaging around immigration, is that if you're not offering an alternative, people see it. Like, here's like a good thing, or at least like a way to explain it. If you're not offering an alternative, if somebody's like, you can have Snickers or you can have Snickers, your option, you're like, I guess Snickers are my option. And that's very much the same way when it comes to a lot of policy, and why you need to differentiate yourself, and why Democrats are so bad at politics in a lot of ways, from differentiating themselves, because they don't create enough of a difference, enough of a space between Republicans, especially on the immigration issue. They consistently move towards Republicans, meaning that voters who normally wouldn't side, I think, or, wouldn't side with Republicans go, well, it kind of seems like this is the answer. It doesn't seem like, it seems like Democrats both and Republicans agree that immigration is a threat to the country, yada, yada, yada. And even if, like, Democrats don't use the same kind of really extreme rhetoric, they're still not they're still not messaging strong enough of like, hey, we need to like fix the system and make it so that people can can get in the country, go through the process. We have enough judges, we have enough this, we've properly funded the process, everything else. So if the only two options you have are Democrats going, yeah, there seems to be a lot of problems, maybe we should shut it down, and Republicans go like frothing at the mouth, going like, we need to keep the immigrants out, they're gonna rape and pillage the country, and there's a whole bunch of males, they're gonna invade, digital invasion, then people go, I guess, like, it's very much like if you're on a plane, it's very similar to like if you're on a plane, right? If you've ever been on a plane and you get a lot of that turbulence, like, watch the stewardesses and watch like the flight crew. If they're chilling, if they're like, all right, we got to strap up a little bit and chill and hang out and, play my Game Boy or whatever, then that should signal to you like, okay, we're getting a little turbulence, but like they're like, we're all good. We're all good. We don't need to, I can sit here and be chill. And that's kind of the problem, right? Because people see Democrats just being like, it's whatever. It's chill. There's all this talk, there's all this turbulence about extreme language and invasion and everything else, and they're just like, we're just gonna sit here, it's not really a big deal. And then you wonder like, and you wonder why people are just kind of like, no, I guess like this kind of rhetoric, this kind of messaging is okay. So yeah,
here in
Continue.
that Axios poll saying that they're open to quote unquote mass deportation if that was coming under a Trump admin, no way it would be totally different. So the political landscape there matters a lot. The other thing I want to say about this poll is I think it's important to understand the shifts in the electorate and how they're thinking about these things and where the issue stands, et cetera. I've done plenty of commentary before. You guys probably already know that I believe that Biden's immigration mistakes here are foolhardy, because for people for whom this is the number one issue, he's never going to outcompete Trump on this issue. He's going to continue to exacerbate his problems with young and progressive voters. I think that shows up in the polls here as well. So I think it's an electoral loser for him ultimately. But nevertheless, it's important to see this polling. But I also feel about this poll sort of the way that I feel about the polls before Trump was convicted, of people predicting how they would feel about a particular policy. Because it's one thing to, tell a pollster like, yeah, sure, let's do mass deportations. It's another thing when you have the reality of, listen, we're talking about some 12 million people roughly.
Oh,
you're talking
it's
about
more like 20 million.
You're not talking about, criminals or gang members or whatever like caricature of an undocumented immigrant is. You're talking about people who've been here for 10 years, 20 years. You're talking about potentially 1 million children. You're talking about community members. You're talking about a huge cost. You're talking about, crazy scenes of, things that people under the Trump administration were like sort of repulsed by. You're talking about also, if you're serious about this policy, which I don't think anyone is, including Trump, if you're serious about this policy, you're also talking about like economic suicide. A majority of farm workers in this country are undocumented immigrants. So, if you were worried about price hikes during the Biden administration, like that would be nothing compared to if you actually implemented this policy, which is why, Trump didn't try to do this in his first administration. I don't think he's even dumb enough to.
That's actually a pretty good point in terms of like, you would have thought that this would have been like a day one Trump administration thing, but they didn't do it, most likely because Trump got the word. Like you can almost bet that he asked and was like, all right, we shut down the border, we deport everybody, right? And then like somebody in like, some like economic advisor came to him and was like, Mr. President, if you were to deport every immigrant, we would not be able to feed we would not be able to feed everybody in this country. Grocery stores would go under due to not being able to stock their shelves. Like the amount of work that not just undocumented, but like recent immigrants do in this country that keep our society afloat is actually like staggering. It is a staggering amount of how much we rely on that labor. And the least that we could do is for those people who are working in those industries is get them citizenship or give them a path to citizenship. If you want to come over here and like work in our fields and pick our apples and berries and everything else to keep the society functional, like on just the basic level of functionality, I think you should be offered a pathway to citizenship because you are doing a job that most Americans have no interest in doing. And, the reasoning for that is because a lot of these like farms and a lot of these farming industry corporations all have kind of gotten used to and fat off of the ability to hire low wage work, ability to hire these undocumented immigrants. So like, certainly we need to, get these people into our system. Why, hello? We need to get people into the system, into our like legalized work system. And then we need to, properly, what's the word I'm looking for? Fight for their rights as workers. Because we can't do that when they're in a basically black market.
To do it in a second administration.
Okay, it's complicated. So first of all, unfortunately, I do agree with you. Americans don't have the stomach for mass deportation. It's not going to happen. I'm not the one saying that. You can ask the most hardline right-wingers, Jesse Kelly, Ryan Gerdusky, who's an immigration hawk. All of us have come to the terms with, no grandma on TV is going to be able to watch some kid get sent back, allegedly because they're with their parents. It's fine. It is what it is. America is what it is. That said, there's a lot that you can do. Mandatory E-Verify, boom. People are not going to stay if they literally can't work. If you have mandatory E-Verify, if you remove the public charge rule on welfare, people are going to do a lot of self-deportation. So that's really the policy that the Trump administration, as I understand it, Trump 2 would coalesce around. That's our Ryan talking about that this morning. So in general, about the politics and all of that, it's complicated because I would be stupid not to acknowledge what you just said. Let's put this up there on the screen. Joe Biden is really leaning into the dynamic that you're talking about. He's got a new policy he's announcing this morning, giving legal status to, quote, immigrant spouses of U.S. citizens. So, and this is the thorny part of allowing millions of people to live here who are illegal, is that now you have millions of people who are U.S. citizens who are then married to people who are illegal immigrants and whose children are U.S. citizens by birthright citizenship. So it's like, okay, well now.
Well, that is kind of just how it was written. That's one of those where, yeah, birthright citizenship, because keep in mind also, doesn't birthright citizenship also count if you're born outside of the country, but your parents are, American citizens? Isn't that like how Ted Cruz got in? He was like born in Canada or some nonsense. Or if you're born, because wasn't Trump born in like Ireland or some shit, but on a base? Like, when it comes down to it, when it really, really, like when we boil this down to brass taxes, the question is, can we afford population growth? And the answer is overwhelmingly, yeah. This is a massive country with a fuck ton of land that we could easily fit more people. We are not in a position where this isn't like an island that can only house a certain amount of people unless you like build upwards. The problem that we are having with the influx of new people, both like from outside and within the country, from like births and people growing up and aging into the age where they should be leaving the house, or at the very least, like, taking the next step in their life, is that we don't build enough housing. We don't build enough affordable housing. We don't build walkable cities and walkable areas. All of our infrastructure is geared towards putting more cars on the road, which which exacerbates climate change. Like, we have not, like, aside from immigration, we have not properly built and managed this country for more people, regardless of immigration, regardless of whether it's immigrants coming in or if everybody tomorrow started popping out like 3 kids for every couple. It wouldn't matter. We do not build the infrastructure, but that is a choice that we have been making for a very long time. And it's a choice that we can make to build that infrastructure, to build that housing tomorrow. We can make that decision tomorrow and begin to build a better society, and one that is suited for more people. But we choose not to, for a couple simple reasons. Part of it is because of the investment in the housing that a lot of institutions have done. Part of it is just people not wanting to lose value in their homes, because every time you build another home, the value of the homes in that area goes down, and a lot of people's savings are in their homes. A lot of people's equity is in their homes. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we need to make the decision to build for more people. And when it comes to immigration, as long as we're vetting people and we have a process to do so, and as long as they're processed through all of those processes, we wouldn't be having this problem. If we had functioning systems and we had functional infrastructure, we wouldn't be having this problem. This is not simply there's just too many immigrants.
What the hell do you do? His new program would, quote, offer work permits, deportation protections, and open a path to apply for a green card in the future. This is basically like a DACA Plus style program. For those who are think that this is a done deal, there's no way. It will be challenged in the court system, and it's going to be months and or years if any of this even makes it through. There'll be rules just like they had with DACA. But more importantly, this is the dichotomy of the immigration conversation.
Yeah.
So in the previous times, whenever illegal immigration was relatively low, like the Bush administration, appetite for basically pathway to citizenship is much, much higher. These days, when you have some 6 to 8 million people who are here illegally just in the last 4 years, not to mention this crushing migrant insanity across all of the cities, the conversation is all about enforcement, and the pathway conversation is low. Biden is trying to flip it, where he's trying to get some enforcement increase from what you were talking about, at the same time trying to tug on the heartstrings and say, well, what about these folks? Apparently that's everybody who's here illegally. Again, I don't think that any mass deportation program will ever happen. Both Congress will never fund it. That's part of the reason that Trump never did it. With the ICE force, and it's complicated. But
yeah, and certainly, at the end of the day, we have the money. We could spend it on our immigration process. But again, it's another choice that we've made to not address something, let it get out of hand, and then, we debate about it for years and months and years, and over the course of multiple administrations.
But basically, the way that it works right now is that unless you're a convicted felon, you're not getting deported. You're basically just left alone. So there's a level of enforcement prioritization, or whatever it's called. I do think it's interesting. Now, I had been looking for some possible counter evidence to some of the stuff you've been talking about European parties. There's one counter example,
Okay.
which is interesting. This is the Washington Post has this written up, but it's a common dynamic. How progressive Denmark
River,
became
don't
the
you
face
go.
of the anti-migration left, where basically Denmark is one of the only neoliberal left parties that remains in existence in power in Europe, well popularly elected, and it has one of the most hardline immigration stances that exists, including telling like Muslim kids like you're not allowed to pray the Quran in school or whatever, like
Jesus
some
Christ.
crazy stuff that would never even fly here
that's not right.
in the U.S. But what I'm saying is that in Denmark, what they successfully, at least, were able to do is the so-called left basically paired off a lot of the anti-immigration voters, but they did it 5-10 years ago, so they have some credibility on the issue, and they've been able to be reelected. At this point, though, I think that effectively a lot of the policy stuff is irreconcilable, and so the immigration voter is probably going to vote for Donald Trump just because they don't have any other choice.
Absolutely. I mean, they do have another. I mean, Biden is clearly, in some ways, there's like a Nixon goes to China phenomena, or like a Bill Clinton. You know, the Democrat is the one who kills welfare. If the Democrats actually, you know, were appropriated the money and were very hardly immigrant, I actually think they could get away with a lot more than Trump could, because you see that in the polling number. Like again, now you have 42% of Democrats saying, sure, deport all 12 million undocumented immigrants, which again, like if you take that policy seriously, it's actually insane. The level of surveillance, intrusion, deep state infiltration that would require the mass detention centers, arresting grandmas, like you said, kids, deporting, the cost in and of itself would be insane. You know, it would not fly, okay, that actual policy. But that just shows you that when you have the Democratic Party and they're just like following the leader, well, they say this is fine, so we'll go along with it. It actually creates more political space. But, you know, to your point, like I think it is very clear Biden's moves with regard to immigration are not going to solve his issue with immigration hardliners, because those people are just Republicans at this point, and not just on immigration, right? There's a whole host of issues on which they likely disagree with Joe Biden. So on the political front, you know, I did want to mention with regard to this executive order, because you do have a real, you know, people have complicated feelings about this issue. So on the one hand, there is a new, at least theoretical embrace that, again, I think if it was implemented would completely flip, but theoretical embrace of more hardline positions. But you also had the last poll had 74% of people saying they support a pathway to citizenship for undocumented immigrants who've been in the country for a lot of years and passed a background.
Like at the end of the day, I feel like most people are like, look, as long as we have a functional system to like get people in, it's not really an issue. And I feel like there could be an element to this where voters are saying like, look, we have a inadequate system right now, and the only at this point I'm willing to just throw it all out and be like, fuck it, you know, we like this system has not functioned for a very long time, let's just like nuke it and start over. But again, the problem is that that's not gonna happen. There isn't gonna be a start over. There isn't gonna be any of that. Mainly because Congress isn't gonna do either option. So like we are kind of stuck in limbo to a degree. But I can see like talking with my mom a lot of times when I ask her about like stuff like Israel and Gaza, like her solution is just like, I don't know, man, just like nuke the whole fucking area and like let's just control alt delete the whole region and we figure it out. And it's like that's not her real perspective. Like she wouldn't actually support something like that, but she is at the point where she's like, I don't fucking know, man. Like I'm tired of hearing about it. Like can I just be done with it? And I feel like that's a lot of Americans who are just sick of hearing about immigration one way or another and would just like and would just enjoy like, I never want to hear about immigration again. Let's just close the border. No immigrants ever. It would devastate the economy and there would be like deep repercussions, but they're just sick of hearing about it without anything actually happening with it. That's where I feel like a lot of people are on the immigration issue, especially those who aren't, you know, Republicans and like far right conservatives who are just racists, you know?
Background check. So I have no expectation that this executive order is going to provoke a backlash outside of, you know, people who are just, you know, hardline already on immigration. I think if you pull this specific executive order, which, by the way, if it did go into effect and makes it through the courts and all of those things, very much up in the air. Sagar's right. It'll take months for this all to be adjudicated. It's going to be called into question, et cetera. The Biden administration thinks that they have a good legal argument. I don't really know. We'll see. But the estimate I saw is this would apply to some 1.3 million people. So it's not nothing. Like this would be a significant number of people who would be getting work permits and a pathway to citizenship. And based on the polling that I'm seeing, you would have a pretty large majority support for such a program, just as you had very significant large support for the DACA program. The other questions they asked, this is a Wall Street Journal poll from like 2 months ago. 66% of voters support creating a mechanism for immigrants brought into the country illegally as children, often called dreamers, to gain citizenship. 58%, according to this poll, back actually increasing the level of legal immigration to the U.S. So the polling on this and the political dynamics on it is far from straightforward, I would say.
Absolutely. And look, I mean, nobody's saying that anybody supports like shutting things down. I'm not naive. Like I just said, mass deportation, it's not going to happen. I know what this country looks like. I know how television works, how the media works.
But it's not just that. It's also, I mean, the morality, listen, to me, the morality part is very important. But I also think even Donald Trump would realize, like economically, it would be such a disaster. Half of farm workers just, that's it. No more, crops rotting in the field. If you think prices were high recently, like it would be nothing compared to that.
I just hate this argument.
You'd have supply chain issues. You'd have meat processing plants shut down. You'd have, construction, like housing costs are already astronomical. You've got some 20% of the construction industry that's undocumented immigrants, cooks, restaurants, food prep. I mean, just the widespread economic chaos would be political and economic suicide for the country. This way.
Like, yeah, like we are looking down the barrel right now of a possible second Trump administration where they would almost certainly do something like this, and it would it would devastate this country's economy, devastate it, and like leaving aside the economy, regular average Americans would have almost no ability to buy like groceries amongst everything else that like it would create so much fucking chaos. So much fucking chaos.
Wait, it's bad for American GDP to go into a trade war with China. I still support it. I fully admit and believe that it is bad for top line GDP. I think it's bad for a lot of businesses.
Which okay. Maybe I'll agree with Sagar a little bit on here. In terms of GDP, it is important, but I do think like in a world where regular Americans' relationship to the economy is inconsistent, or not inconsistent. It like regular Americans are so detached from our economy. Like when the economy is doing well, does anybody feel like they're doing well? When we always hear like, oh, the economy's doing great. The economy's doing great. Not really. Not really. Like for the most part, most people go like, yeah, the economy's doing really well and my rent is still going up and food prices are still going up and it's still really hard for me to, to pay the bills and everything else. So like in terms of GDP, I don't really know if that's something that we need to be deeply concerned about, I suppose, or if like there is a certain level, I guess, where I go, yeah, like GDP is irrelevant to most Americans' everyday life. It just is. It's not effective to them. And I do think that's what Sagar's speaking to here. And I would agree that like the GDP hit, I think if we took a GDP hit, I don't think most Americans would feel it, because I don't think they feel the GDP like rises or boosts. So if we take a hit to do something that's like positive, then sure, I don't really think a trade war is in that vein. But I guess like, the heart of this argument, I can understand and I can see it.
I don't care. I think it's the right thing to do. Same thing here. It's like So our broken system employs a bunch of people who are here illegally and who are unskilled. It's like, yeah, deportation or forcing them to leave through self-deportation matters through E-Verify. Will there be a higher cost? Yes, true. Will wages go up? Yeah, I do believe that. I mean, will it be bad for Tyson Food meat processing? Will Costco rotisserie chicken stay at $5?
It wouldn't just be bad for Tyson Food. It would be bad
probably not.
for families who are trying to buy Tyson Food
I
in
agree.
Costco.
Yes, it's true. Yeah, the price will go up. I mean, let's be very real here.
Huge,
I believe
massively.
the price will probably go up. Will be a more cohesive society. Will we have better supply and demand and better wages? Yeah, I
What? Whoa, Sagar, whoa, buddy. See, this is when he gets into this bag is when the alarm bells go off.
meat processing. Will Costco? Yeah, I do believe that. I mean, through E-Verify, will there be a higher system employs a bunch of people who are here illegally and who are unskilled? It's like, yeah, deportation or forcing them to leave through self-deportation matters through E-Verify. Will there be a higher cost?
No.
American GDP to go into a trade war and GDP. I think it's bad for a lot of businesses. I don't care. I think it's the right thing to do. Same thing here.
Okay.
It's like,
I'm cool with that.
So our broken system employs a bunch of people who are here illegally and who are unskilled. It's like,
okay, that's true. We do have an exploitative system. Yes.
like, yeah, deportation or forcing them to.
No. You just make them citizens so that they can benefit from better wages. Like, I don't. Okay. So do you see what I mean when I say it's fucking weird? Because Sagar is arguing right now that under our current system, the problem is that, meat packing facilities and farmers and farm industry, all that stuff, employ undocumented workers at incredibly competitive wages, dirt wages, and always have the threat of deportation at the ready if their workers were ever to, I don't know, say, want to unionize or demand better pay or better working conditions or any of those things, right? And Sagar's solution to this is just Control Alt delete them out of the system, which would do two things. One, it would deprive that business of workers, which would then deprive Americans of the resources, or I should say the products that those facilities manufacture. That's one. So the American people now do not get their meat, and businesses do not have employees to employ. And two, do you think wages are going to go up? Do you think they're going to offer higher wages? Maybe in some places they might, but do you think Americans are going to want to do that work for competitive prices? These facilities have lived on these wages. They have tuned their businesses to those wages, and they are not going to at the end of the day, they're not going to start hiring American workers at $25, $30, $35, $40 an hour to do this kind of work. If after you deport all of these undocumented immigrants, they're going to still just offer whatever the minimums are. And a lot of these facilities, they're in red states, meaning that their minimum wages are incredibly low. Like, okay, let's go take a look really quickly. Where are meat packing facilities? Let's take a look. Okay, here we go. United States. No. Can I get a map? Let's see if we can check images. Yeah, can I get like a map? Map maybe? If I type in map. Okay, here we go. Interactive map, media planet countries report twice the national average rate of COVID. I don't really need that. I just need distribution with no small cattle slaughter facilities. Bureau, here we go. Locations, quotient of slaughter meat packers by state. Here we go. Okay. This is exactly what I wanted. Okay. So most of them are here in the Midwest. I don't know what this is this white color like nothing? Okay. in the South. Like, you're not seeing it in the Northeast. You're not seeing it on the West Coast. I guess you're seeing a bit in the West Coast. 1.280 to 8.8 to 1.25. But a good, like, Texas is a huge state, so that's a lot of distribution. Mississippi, Kansas, all of these. What do you think the wages are here? Let's pick a random one. Mississippi minimum wage. MISSI, PPI. Okay. Minimum wage. $7.25 an hour for Mississippi. For South Dakota, Nebraska, and Kansas, let's see. $7.25. South Dakota. Look at that. $11.20. Isn't that great? What was the last one in that group? Nebraska. Let's see. Lincoln, Nebraska's minimum wage will increase to $12. So keep in mind, like, you have is there a Texas minimum wage? Good question. Let's find out. Texas minimum. No, just minimum wage. I don't care about year. Just give me the current minimum wage. $7.25 an hour. So, like, what do you think the states that have all of this meat packing processing, what do you think they're gonna pay? Do you think they're gonna be paying competitive wages? Or do you think it's going to be a race to the bottom to get workers in here? Fuck, they might even in some of these states, we might even see prison labor used if they can get it. So, like, and again, the idea that you would remove those workers, just move them out and not replace, like, with no plan of replacement, would devastate the economy, would devastate the Americans' ability just to eat food, to acquire food to eat. This would bring rot onto this country. And again, it's like, are these going to be competitive wages in these states? Doubtful. They don't have competitive wages now for people who are in the legal system.
Leave through self-deportation matters are unskilled. It's like, yeah, deportation or forcing them to leave through self-deportation matters through E-Verify. Will there be a higher cost? Yes, true. Will wages go up? Yeah, I do believe that.
No, they won't. Wages won't go up. Or if they go up, they'll be negligible. Because at the end of the day, if your wage goes up if they're paying those workers $7.25 an hour, what do you think they're paying like an American to work there? $9? Like, they can still pay that American $7.25. It doesn't change. Those states are using the federal minimum wage, Sauger. If you want to see an increase in wages in those states, then you have to pass a federal minimum wage, since they use the federal minimum wage, and there's no state minimum in some of those states. And some of them, sure, some of them are $11, $12. Is that adequate? No, of course it's not. Nobody can live in any of those states for $12 an hour. So how would wages go up? How do wages go up? You get rid of undocumented workers. How do wages go up? Like, they hire Americans? At what wage? Are they going to pay them $25 an hour to do that work? I really doubt it.
I mean, will it be bad for Tyson Food meat processing?
It will be bad for everybody. It will suck for Tyson. It will suck for everybody else. Because guess what? The CEO and the executive class of Tyson probably already has like fucking truckloads of chicken and meat and everything else stored in an enormous fridge because they're rich already. Regular Americans are going to be the ones who aren't going to be able to acquire basic amenities like chicken and beef.
Will Costco rotisserie chicken stay at $5?
It wouldn't be bad for Tyson Food. It would be bad
probably not.
For families who are trying to buy
Thank you,
Crystal.
Yeah,
thank you. It's true. Yeah, the price will go up. Let's be very.
The price won't go up. The price will go up because scarcity will get so low. And then guess what? Guess what? You want to talk about a boon for the vegan option for the yeah. Actually, you want to know who this is going to be good for? You want to know who this is going to be good for? One second, one moment. You want to know who this is going to be good for? Wow, I can't believe. I guess I would have to. This is who this is going to be good for.
Pleasure. Promo. Provides 330% of recommended daily vitamins.
That's who this is going to be good for. All your like fake meat processing. That's who that's going to be good for. Get ready. Get ready. This kind of making chicken and regular regular meats incredibly scarce and high value. Get ready for people just eating Beyond Meat every day. And then Sagar's going to come on here and complain like, oh, we can't even get real steak anymore. Blah, blah, blah. It's like, yep, that's what happens. That's what happens.
Very real here.
Huge,
I believe
massively.
the price will probably go up.
A lot.
We'll be a more cohesive society. Will we have better supply and demand and better wages? Yeah, I believe that.
Yeah, and the society thing, is just weird fascist rhetoric. As if we can't be a cohesive society with brown people who like English is their second language, even though this country was built by people who English was a second language. And like we get a ton of our like culture from people whose English is their second language.
That.
Listen.
So sometimes we just have to sit here and like lay out the full truth. And also, I believe the full thing should be laid out to the American people. Like I said on the China issue.
Yeah.
If you ask them, are you willing to pay
What's
higher
the China
prices and your
issue?
stuff doesn't come from China? Most people say yes. There's a lot of polling on this. So on the same thing.
Well, yeah, but okay. So here's the thing. If that is the case, understand. So the problem with the China question, right? The whole like angle when it comes to China, the issue that we have with China is that our manufacturing. She's still sleeping under the table. I was wondering, making sure she doesn't sleep on the. My cat is right here. But no, like. The issue we have with China is that our manufacturing is basically inexistent because we have relied on China and their low wages and really shitty working conditions to make quickly all of our disposable goods. And like that has led to the death of manufacturing in America, which means we just don't produce things here anymore. And people aren't able to gain a living by producing things in this country in which they live. But if you told people, okay, what if we stopped importing Chinese goods or they became incredibly expensive? Like, how would you all feel about that? People go, oh, well, I mean, I'd be happy to buy American. You can't. That's not a flip you can switch. We can begin to build that kind of infrastructure, but that takes decades of infrastructural investment, something for which we are not ready for, something for which like we haven't even taken the first step towards yet, I should say. So like, I'm all for bringing industry back here, but it's not a do it tomorrow sort of thing. That is a probably like 10-year project to bring back full-time manufacturing into America in terms of like goods that aren't just like meat packing, stuff like that. Like, and there are companies. But with that, again, keep in mind, if you are going to have stuff made in America, those things are going to be more expensive, which means wages need to go up even more. And do you think Sagar and Republicans who always talk about manufacturing are in favor of raising wages? Not really. Like, they're not incredibly pro-union all the time. And they're usually not in favor of raising the federal minimum wage. So what they would just like is manufacturing to come back, wages to maybe go up, but mostly for prices to go up, which benefits the owners of those companies. And if wages go up, maybe we'll deal with it. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Haven't really thought of it. Not that interested. Like, there are consequences to this stuff. There are steps that you need to take, and it's not just as simple as let's just make stuff in America and it'll all be good. People still need to be able to buy those things at American prices, which are fundamentally higher.
It's like, well, what do you want? What do you want? What country do you want to live in?
So
like, we can live in all low
cohesive
prices.
society thing, I just want to put to the side because I think that's first of all, I just wildly disagree. Like, I mean, actually, the poll numbers support
It's just
the fact
fascism.
that
That's
we
all
don't
that is.
have, actually, racial divides have never been less in terms of political partisan identities than at any time,
I'm not talking
in
about
our
race.
lives. But so I want to put the cohesive society part to the side because I think that is very fraught and also very subjective. But we really disagree about the economics of this.
Sure.
First of all, the typical view of just supply and demand of workers, and so if you increase the supply, it's going to create lower wages. It's not that there's nothing to that, but the real picture is much more complicated than that because if you think about, for example, okay, you now have deported or in the process of deporting 50% of all farm workers. All right, well, that's going to have huge economic implications for those farmers. It's going to have huge economic implications for the consumers. It's not really likely to increase wages because why? Because workers don't really have enough power in the country to be able to claim their share of the economic pie. So that's why I always think it's a red herring to focus on immigration as the sole. And I'm not saying this necessarily about you, Sagar,
Sure.
because you do embrace unionism and other things. But most people, most politicians on the right embrace reducing immigration as the sole path to increasing wages.
Yeah, they're just like, kick all the immigrants out and the wages will go up. And it's like, why would the wages go up? Sure, you like there is no mechanism because they'll just pay Americans worse. Like, it's not like they're gonna be like, okay, fine. We got used to paying this this immigrant named Juan who's here undocumented. We got used to paying him like $10 an hour and threatening him whenever he said he didn't want to come in or he was sick. To force them to come into work. Fine, we'll pay an American with all the rights. And, when they go, oh, well, we need to be able to afford the area. We need like at least $25 an hour. We'll definitely pay that. It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. They will do the same thing that they did with other manufacturing. They'll just be like, we've made our money. Time to move on. Clearly, this isn't a good business venture. I'm not making enough. The only way you get this is with unionization to make sure that those workers are able to basically ensure their job security and keep the business running. Because at the end of the day, like a lot of these meat packing facilities and a lot of these like corporate farms, like the people who own them are still just looking for a return on their investment, are still just looking to be millionaires off of the backs of other people's labor. And in no way do we need to encourage a system that allows those people to do that. We should be not even just actively discouraging that. We should be making sure that, guess what? You're not going to make a bajillion dollars just being the CEO of Tyson Farms. You can make a nice, cool $500,000 every year for not lifting a goddamn finger. But that's about it. Like at the end of the day, like we can't keep these businesses open just so owners can get rich. And the best way to do that is unionization. But you can't join or form a union if you're undocumented in this country. So you legalize them and then they can begin unionizing and then you go from there.
When they have no other demonstrated interest in raising wages in any other policy area. If you look throughout history, most consistently, the thing that has increased wages has been worker power. If you look at the charts, if you look at, when unions started to decline and workers started to have less power and then the New Deal coalition starts to fall apart, that's when you see wages decline. And it's not up and down with regard to what the immigration levels happen to be at that point. So if the actual concern is wages, I'm not going to deny that levels of immigration have an impact there. I think that would be, dishonest. Although, again, I think it's much more complicated. And if you look at the studies, they would suggest it's much more complicated. But the real thing you would want to do is increase worker power so that they can claim their share of the record-breaking corporate profits that we've seen. So, to take up your example with China trade, which I'm also sympathetic to that, to that direction as well. For me there, you have a real, which was demonstrated during the pandemic, you have a real problem in this country, which is that we have outsourced so much that we are really vulnerable. And, you know, it's a problem for consumers. We saw when the pandemic hit and you couldn't get things and there were shortages and prices escalated, et cetera. But even more to the point, you know, we weren't making our own face masks. Like our industrial capacity has been so stripped that it really creates a national vulnerability. And I don't see a better way to deal with that than, you know, some of the nearshoring and friendshoring and, you know, reshoring and some of the programs, the industrial policy that's being engaged in under Joe Biden, which does have the potential to somewhat increase prices. Here, if your concern is wages, I see way better ways to go about this that aren't, you know, cruel and don't require massive expansion of the deep state and are much less costly and are ultimately, you know, and don't massively, you know, create potential hyperinflation in food prices and meat prices and housing prices, et cetera.
And keep in mind, the prices that we're seeing right now at the grocery store have nothing to do with inflation and have everything to do with price gouging. Everything to do with price gouging. Like, we do not, like, there has not been, this isn't the middle of the pandemic. It has been business as usual for groceries, for food distributors for what, at least 2 years now. It's been back to at like pre-COVID, pretty much business as usual. And prices have gone up since COVID. It has, and the Biden administration is at fault for this solely because they are unwilling to address the price gouging that is happening to every single American. And if they did so, that'd actually be a bit popular.
So to me, you know, the solution of, oh, let's just shut down immigration, it doesn't make sense for that to be the solution if the problem you're trying to solve is wages.
I think it's a yes and. I mean, if you look at a lot of those times, there are also at times where we had historically low levels of immigration, or it's what type of country do you live in at that time. So you can't, it's very unfair to compare high levels of immigration combined with a mass industrial economy. We have 6 to 8 million people who have arrived in this country in the last 4 years who we are lucky if they are literate in Spanish, let alone English. Don't speak any English.
Is that true? One moment, please. Okay. Literacy rates in, let's just like, okay, let's see. Mexican literacy 99.5%. 89.98 for El Salvador. What's the other? Venezuela. It's 97. Like, I don't know where he's getting this from. Like, people in South America are illiterate or something. South America broadly, 94%. Oh, here we go. Fuck you, AI answer. Let's take a look. Literacy rate in Latin America. Costa Rica, Ecuador, Puerto Rico. Yeah, like 98, 94. All of them are above the 90 percentile. So Ecuador, oh, this is not the greatest list, but still, like, I don't know where he's getting this, where it's like, oh, they're not even literate in Spanish. The populations there are quite literate, unless they're literal children.
In a society which is rapidly deindustrializing and going towards a service-based economy and knowledge-based economy. It just doesn't work. It's one of those where then there is a huge amount of competition.
Well, Sagar, what? Okay. So is he correct? So first of all, the economy moving more towards a service economy absolutely is what's the word? Is compatible with high immigration and low skill immigration. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, service industry is still, like, there's still a lot of menial, or should I say, like, repetitive tasks that you do in service industry. Like, there are a ton of undocumented workers that are making food in kitchens all over this goddamn country. And like the whole knowledge thing, I'm sorry, but a lot of our economy right now is propped up by like short-term bets on things, the investment market, and just a lot of our economy is just based on scam bullshit. So much of our economy has gone from like providing a good and a service to 1 second. What the hell is this? Interesting. But so much of our economy has like gone from being a goods and services, manufacturing, all of that stuff, to just people taking bets on investments and driving up value through stock evaluation, along with it's just our economy is so much more opaque, I think, these days than it was even 40 years ago, just because of how we just don't create things here like we used to. It's all just evaluation and like speculative value that a lot of our economy is built on top of.
In the lower wage and lower skilled sector. So not only that, billions of dollars being thrown at, so basically, allowing these people to live here rent free. In charity wise, I mean, you can look it up. Unless they have a work permit, they literally have to live on charity, which is
right. Which is why they should have work permits.
But why should they have work permits? You arrive here
so
illegally.
That they can,
it's bullshit. I mean, they're coming here from countries. By the way, El Salvador just solved all of its crime problems. Do you know what the crime rate in El Salvador is now? It's lower than like Manhattan. So.
Whoa, wait a minute. First of all, I've actually seen a little bit of how they got that. It's not exactly the most clear. El Salvador says murders fell 70%. Oh yeah, I think I read this. Yeah. Okay, let's check out Foreign Affairs. The cost of El Salvador's crime crackdown. Oh my God, Jesus, the ads. Buckle has reduced homicides but eroded democracy. Like, oh boy. Under President Nayib Bukele, El Salvador has experienced one of the most spectacular declines in violent crime in recent memory anywhere in the world, despite ranking among the most dangerous countries on the planet. Mere decades ago, Central American state today boasts a homicide rate of only 2.4 per 100,000 people, the lowest of any in the country in the Western Hemisphere. El Salvador owes much of its. Fuck you guys. Fuck you. Okay, let's see. Only necessary. Please go away. What do we got? 103 per 100,000. We're down to 2.4. Can I get like an article? Because I read a bit of this. Here it is. Can you guys go the fuck away, please? Security authorities on said Wednesday. This implies homicide rate of 2.4 for every $100,000. Said that was lowest in in the Americas, apart from more than 100,000. Okay, Buko's crackdown has been broadly popular with Salvadorans, weary of the years of gang violence, extortion, and drug dealing. But human rights groups have said the crackdown has included abuses such as torture, deaths in custody, and arbitrary detentions. State of emergency declared in early 2022 allows police to swiftly arrest and jail suspected gang members while suspending their right to a lawyer and court approvals. So, is it shocking? That Saagar, a bit of a sussy, populist right winger, is praising El Salvador's. How do we put this? El Salvador's quite robust rejection of people's rights to bring their crime rate down, according to them. Is it shocking that he would support measures that would strip the rights of citizens in the name of solving crime? Now, to be clear, El Salvador is not the United States. El Salvador had a extremely rough problem with gangs, and obviously their crime rate was unacceptable. But the question needs to be asked of like, how did we get to this point in a manner in which we preserved, democracy, preserved the rights of citizens? Or did we just broadly go after anyone we saw fit? And how many of those people were innocent people? So it's just, Since it took effect, security forces have arrested nearly 75,000 suspected gang members and released 7,000 according to official data. Human rights groups have reported 190 deaths and over 5,000 abuses related to the crackdown. The Central American University's Observatory of Human Rights have in the past criticized official data, saying violent deaths are highly underreported and government figures not truthful. The data does not include suspected gang members who become casualties of confrontations with security officials, nor people who die in state custody. So essentially, they're also like ignoring, like, hey, if we killed people, that's not a crime either. If we killed people in our custody, which if you accounted for that in the crime statistics, you wouldn't see such a low crime rate. So to bring down crime, you abused and neglected the rights of your citizens. I don't think so. Yeah, I just don't think this is the. I don't really think this is the shining beacon example of bringing crime down. Meanwhile, in the United States, what did he say? Manhattan, crime rate in Manhattan. Whoa. Hello there. Didn't mean to do that. Manhattan. 5.7 per, is it per? Well, that's per 1,000. So, oh God, am I gonna have to do math for a moment? Oh, I don't have it on here right now. Really? I should really pin this to start. There we go. Let's put it right there, right next to the refrigerator. Right there. Let's take a look. So, 5.7 per 1,000. That would be, what would that actually be? 5.7 per 1,000? Wait, 5.7 per 1,000 people in the entire country of El Salvador is 2. Well, what is that? I guess divided by, so it's 4.1 per. Okay, I'm so bad at math. We're just moving on because I'm bad at math. Yeah, that's a pretty, that's a really sketchy number.
You can go back. You don't have to fear for your life anymore. Honduras is building a 10,000 person prison.
Yeah, unless you're like walking around and the police just decide that you look like a gang member, and then you'll get thwomped over the head and maybe get released.
To implement the exact same thing. This whole idea that these countries can't solve.
And also, we don't have, keep in mind, like, we don't have the same crime problem in this country. So, you know, there's also that.
Solve their own problems, which they are now solving, is BS.
Okay.
Like,
and also keep in mind, these aren't, like, Sagar's like, they need to solve their own problems. My dude, we have destabilized that region so much through our actions abroad. You can't sit here and go, they need to solve their own problems after we're the ones that caused a lot of those problems. Like, come on.
this TPS status for people who've been living here
But again,
25, 30 years, it's outrageous.
But again, so
I mean, if you've lived here for
view
20, 30
migrants
years.
as a net negative. I don't view migrants as a net negative whatsoever.
It depends on the migrant. It depends
but
on who
hold
you are.
But
Yeah.
hold on a second.
Well, yeah. Okay. Once again, Sagar, you say that, but your rhetoric doesn't align with the facts, because Sagar talks as if immigrants commit more crime, as if immigrants cause deep strife in the country, when they simply don't. Immigrants commit less crime than native-born citizens. So if, like, the problem is that, like, Sagar's feelings do not align with the facts. That's the problem. Is that, like, his perspective is immigrants are bad because they, they might be criminals, which on average, they're less likely to be criminals than U.S. citizens, or that they drive down wages, which also is untrue because wages have continued to be driven downward since the 1970s. So, and we've had immigration the entire existence of this country. Unfortunately, the facts, my friends, do not account for your feelings.
We have a looming demographic issue in this country, as do all developed nations,
Yes.
of an aging population and a dwindling workforce aged population. And the native born population is, you're the first to point
Sure.
out,
Yeah, it's
birth rates are
not high
low,
enough.
right? We don't have a replacement rate. Places I've lived in places in the country that have seen the population dwindle and go away. Those places are in crisis. Like, we need workers. We need workers. So, the idea that they're just a burden and a drain, well, a core part of the problem is the fact that, they do need work permits. They need to be able to work not in the shadows, so they're not exploited, which does have larger impacts than on the low-wage workforce, because if you can get an undocumented worker who's being paid under the table and not going to take you to OSHA if you're violating labor laws, et cetera, that's a much larger issue. So listen, where I am personally, I don't know if I'm quite ready to go where Ryan is with the full open borders, because
Is
I
he
do
a
think—
full open border guy?
Yeah,
I
he's
didn't
an
know
open
that.
border guy,
Okay.
which
He-
I respect. But,
Because Ryan's
I do have
fucking
questions about,
based
okay, well,
as
if you just
fuck.
did open borders, like, how many people are we talking about? And how many can you really, deal with? There is a limit, I think, to the capacity at one given time. But significantly increasing the legal pathways to citizenship here, I am wildly in favor of. I think it would be good for the country, obviously be good for those migrants, but more importantly, I think it'd be good for the country. I think it would be good overall for workers. I think it has to be paired with a—
Like, think about this for a minute. Think about this for a minute. If you had all of these immigrant workers, if you legalize them tomorrow, right? They would be allowed to organize with regular like any other American worker. That would drive up wages, first of all, because they'd be in the legal system, meaning that they could join a union. They could form unions if they could form a union, which would drive up wages. Like, there's always going to be the threat that those companies are going to shut down. That's always going to be. They're always going to threaten that. And they're either going to do it or they're going to not. But you should at the very least bring those people, those workers in those plants out of the shadows into legal status so that they can negotiate for wages, so that they can go to OSHA, so that they can go to these places to put pressure on management to raise wages. Will that mean an increase in the price of products? Yes, absolutely. But what you're not going to see is scarcity, which will increase the price of products exponentially. Exponentially.
a stronger labor movement, which we're already seeing come into fruition. But, just to talk about the last few months, like, we have had very high levels of migration, as you would point out, over the past few months. And we also have had wages for the first time in quite a while that have risen at a faster pace than inflation. So if migration was just the blanket disaster for workers, and that was the reason to deport everybody and, lock the gates, et cetera, that hasn't been the experience of our economy just over the past, year, several months.
Look, it's a 25-year issue. This is not, we can't put three.
What irritates the fuck out of me is it's like, what do you like? You're doing like it's been a really, this has been an issue forever. Like, my dude, like, immigration didn't start 25 years ago. We didn't start letting people into this country 25 years ago. We have had an immigration system in this country since its inception. What hasn't been happening for 25 years is proper funding and proper updating of legislation. Those are the two things that have not been happening.
3 months of data and say that's indicative of everything. If the Biden administration, I call on the Biden administration to release the true economic number, how much we have spent on these people. Get on an airplane these days. I'm flying from Phoenix. Half the guys on the plane are illegal, getting paid with taxpayer citizens with their little packets, flying to Washington, D.C. because they get free whatever, shelter.
They don't want to be charity case. They want to work.
Yeah,
they want to work.
okay,
they want
you
to
didn't
earn
work
money.
in
They
your
want to
own-
pay
that's
taxes.
fine. Work
Most of
in your
them
own
do pay
country.
taxes, by the way,
You are welcome to work in the country that you're born in. Otherwise you can apply for a quote
I'm
unquote
just saying,
pathway to
these aren't
citizenship.
like people who want to be welfare moochers.
I mean, yeah, but again, like, people have a right to want to immigrate. And certainly for those undocumented people, those people are desperate. And they're desperate because our system has failed them and it's failing us. At the end of the day, all of this gets solved with legislation. That will never happen because Republicans don't actually care about the issue. They want to run on it, they want to screech about it, and they want to bitch about it, but they don't want to actually address the issue. So, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like this gets solved with this gets solved like with legislation, and it's just not happening.
But they are.
Want
I mean,
to
they're net.
work. They
okay.
want to contribute. They do pay taxes.
And we also need workers, and we also need people who are still having kids, which immigrants, like, we have to supplement our, like, at the end of the day, we also have, like Sagar mentioned the birth rate stuff, we also have to supplement our birth rate somehow. Like, somehow we have to keep having enough people in this country to keep it functioning, right? And, like, you know, American citizens aren't having kids because they can't. So if you want to solve that problem, also solve that one. Like, immigration is, in my opinion, it, like, when you really start to talk about it, and when you really, like, get into all of the arguments over immigration, it just comes down to, like, it is like immigration is one, like, little piece of the broken economics that we have been that we have lived under for at least 20 years. For at least 20 years, you know, probably since Reagan, we have had just a busted economic format. And because of that, because now, you know, fast forward 40 years or whatever, now we're starting to see the results of that. And we're starting to see the results of those bad decisions. And the continuation of making those bad decisions. And immigration is just one element to it. You stop immigration, you close the border, guess what? Wages aren't going to go up. Guess what? Housing is not going to become suddenly affordable. None of the average issues, none of the normal issues that average Americans face are going to suddenly go away because we closed the border. And it's asinine to think otherwise.
I do not begrudge them for wanting to work here. Everybody wants to work here. Over 1 billion people who've been polled over the in the world say they want to move to the United States. But that's why I would say to Ryan, that's insane. You can't allow 1 billion people to move here, and nor should we.
Why not? We have the space. If, like, we almost certainly have the space. India is a smaller country and has more people. Like, we would be fine. We would be perfectly fine.
The demographic argument is a different one, and that's one where, again, we should be able to choose who gets to come here and or not, and what type of society.
Whoa, wait a minute. That's always who's the we in this conversation. I don't really think we should choose at all. Other than screening for like criminals and those like fleeing the law. What do you mean? Why should I, a good corn-fed American, care where somebody is coming from? I only care about the merit of their person. If they're willing to work, if they're a good person, I don't care if they're from Senegal, I don't care if they're from El Salvador, I don't care if they're from Nepal, I don't care if they're from China, I don't give a fuck where you're coming from. Egypt, I don't care. I have no interest and no care as to which countries we get immigrants from. Because it doesn't matter. Like, who gives a fuck? As long as you're, like, you know, coming here wanting to contribute, we'll take you.
And people.
It's worked for us our entire history, hasn't it? Only recently has it suddenly become such an issue.
That we want to allow into our economy and thus become future citizens. That is something that should be decided by democracy, not based on whether you can walk across Mexico and pay.
I mean, what do you think? You think we're going to vote on a list of immigrants every couple of months? That's fucking stupid. You build an immigration system that's well funded.
A drug smuggler to enter the United States illegally.
Again,
why are they better off than somebody from Africa?
All right, so
it's not fair.
Let's bring in more people from Africa.
But that's what I'm saying.
I'm down
well,
for that.
actually,
Let's be, but
funnily
you know,
enough, lots of Africans are now flying to Mexico.
There you go. So it's more egalitarian. You should be happy.
That's not egalitarian.
Listen, the reality is that in terms of migration, if you look not just now but historically, like, people typically want to go to countries that are nearby. In fact, there's far more migration between different South American countries than there are South American migrants coming here, because there's more cultural affinity, you're more likely to have family ties, etc. And so, you know, it's not just the fact that you happen to be able to walk there, it's also that you're more likely.
I mean, this is the concept of the EU, because people, like, living, if you live in the US, wouldn't it be fucking cool? Wouldn't it actually be fucking stellar if you could, like, go back and forth between Mexico and Canada the same way people can in the EU can just, like, go from France to Germany to Belgium? Is Belgium in that grouping? I would assume so. Yeah, to like Belgium, to like you open up the lines of trade so much more, and like I just think it'd be fucking cool to be able to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna go head down to Mexico without there being such a goddamn process. Same with like Canada. But like over here, we've just decided that we need to be like pure, like fully separate entities with you know, not even just separate economies, like fully separated like societies. Even though we all have, like, you know, like people in Mexico have pretty similar experiences in terms of their climate, in terms of a lot of things that Americans do. Probably more with Americans in the southwestern region, but like, again, I just think it'd be neat. I just think it'd be so much better for everybody if everyone can go wherever they want.
Likely to want to move to a place that is closer, but you know, the bottom line for me also is just when I look at the immigrants that I know in my life, when I look at the contributions of immigrants across society, I think we would be so foolish to not embrace the contribution of a group of people who, just by nature, like, it is not an easy thing to pick up your whole life and move somewhere and try to make it. And, you know, that, like, they are in a lot of ways, I know this sounds hokey, but I really feel this. They are in a lot of ways like the embodiment of the American dream. And to shut your doors to that, to, like, you know, kick out people who've been here 10 and 20 years who have.
Saagar hates it right now. It's like shocking how much he hates hearing all of this. Like, Crystal's coming in here like, yo, like, immigrants like built a lot of this country. How many people have different experiences, which makes the American experience of living here that much more vibrant. They commit less crime. They contribute, like, you know, so much work and effort into making sure that we all get fed, everything else. And Saagar's over here just fucking fuming. It's kind of disgusting.
Families who are deeply enmeshed in society, who are contributing members of their communities. I don't just think it's wrong morally. I think it would be so catastrophic in terms of the economics and politics of society.
It's like wrong morally and awful
even
for
Trump didn't contemplate such a draconian move in his first term, and wouldn't contemplate such a draconian move because he relied on undocumented immigrants in his own businesses. So this is a man who is acquainted with the realities.
He takes advantage of the system.
Of what needs to occur.
Yeah,
the way
Crystal,
our economy actually works.
I support a law called E-Verify, which would require Donald Trump and all employers to verify that their employees are not illegal immigrants.
I support that, plus a much larger legal, if you have a much higher level of legal migration where there is an actual pathway to citizenship, you're gonna have much less chaos at the border. You can then have more enforcement, right? There's a path here that, you know, there's a way to do this.
Like, at the end of the day, at the end of the day, when it comes down to immigration, it's people are usually fleeing some pretty harsh conditions, if not just flat out like wildly dangerous conditions. And, you know, this is their only option to kind of make it. And if you tell me like, hey, you're gonna either die despondent in your country because it's been so destabilized, or, you know, and like, or you can trudge through multiple countries for like what, months to get to the United States, and then you get there and it's like, oh, by the way, it's like a 5-year process. You know, if you told me like, all right, look, we can get you in so that you can like reconnect with, maybe you have family in the country, or just get you on your feet here, you know, get you into a meat packing plant. You can have, you know, maybe you can get a small apartment, you know, you'll be super poor. You'll be still living in poverty, but it's better to live in poverty in the United States than live in, like, you know, some of these countries. Like, what are you going to do? And when our system is so gummed up and fucking inefficient, like, we have the space. At the end of the day, we have the space. People are going to fill it. And if you don't give them a legal way to fill it, they'll fill it any other way.
And you're not doing it the right way. As of now, you just have, you know, it's completely broken down for people
everyone
coming
for
from
themselves.
those countries, there is no
We don't
pathway
fucking know,
to
so they don't fucking
citizenship.
know.
We
And
all
they
know
just
the
figure it
asylum
out.
process is completely broken. And so, you know, that's how you end up with Americans looking at it and saying like, we got to do something here.
Okay, we'll agree to disagree. Not going to solve it here as usual. The immigration section goes on for
It
too
will-
long.
it will
And
continue.
the producers are, but yeah, maybe Trump will win, and we'll get to find out. All right, that could be an.
Trump will win, and it's not going to happen. I'm telling you that right now. If in his like first, in his first thing that he, like in his first administration they didn't do it, he's definitely not going to be doing it. He's definitely not going to do it the second time. So, Jesus. Non-immigration, illegal immigration, big difference. Crystal has zero chance of accounting any of these people in her gated community. Probably. Actually, let's look through the comment section a little bit. Shall we? All right. How does it cost more to deport them than paying for them to stay? So, first of all, I'm not sure what people think like when they're like paying for them to stay. We do have facilities which are private institutions which house some of these people. Which, yeah, that costs you a lot. But if you had a system, again, that processed everybody a lot quicker, then you obviously wouldn't need to have so many people in holding facilities. Along with the idea that, you know, for undocumented immigrants, certainly, the United States isn't paying for them. Like, if you're an undocumented worker, the United States is not paying for you to be here. You are, although, paying taxes to be here. You know, every time you pay sales tax, that's taxes that you're not getting back. Every time that you're paying, say, what's the other one? What's the one I'm thinking of? I already said sales tax, right? There's the income tax, I should say. You are also not getting that as well. So, I mean, you know, it's just. And like to deport people, like that costs a lot of money transporting all of those people. And keep in mind, like you transport them and they're just going to come back because where else are they going to go? So you're just going to keep transporting them constantly. And transportation costs are going to go up. You're just going to keep incurring that cost. We can't do that. Okay, here we go. It's crazy that the main argument against mass deportation is, quote, we can't do that. Who will be our cheap labor source if we get rid of everyone? We don't have to pay minimum wage. Well, no, that is like, yeah, that is kind of the argument. Like, who's going to do that work? Americans aren't going to do that work, not for those wages. And the companies aren't willing to pay higher wages. So nobody does the work and nobody eats. That's what you get. Like, there are consequences to this. You could say like, oh, illegal immigration is bad. And sure, it's not like the proper way to immigrate here. But obviously, we've kind of built society around that. And that's been our fault. We have created that situation for ourselves. So it's kind of one of those where it's like, well, maybe Congress, maybe we should solve that whole problem. Also, let a flood of illegal immigrants to work for cheap. Well, if you made them legal, then they wouldn't, like, if you made them legal, then they would be able to unionize, and that would be even more worker power, isn't it? We need slave labor here because I want cheap strawberries. Well, considering Crystal is advocating for them to be you know, made citizens, not really the same argument, but okay. Yeah, I'm not really shocked. The Breaking Point's audience is what I find always concerning. That's what I find probably most concerning. Their audience is always really sussy in my experience. But anyway, should we? Yeah, probably should. Should we go to the? We're definitely gonna put this at like 1.5 speed. But yeah, let's go check out this Jubilee video. Yeah, sounds good to everybody. Yeah. Actually, let me check. What I see. All right. Okay, cool. It's reading. Oh my goodness. What am I looking for? No, that's not what I'm looking for. You know what I haven't been able to find since. Let me take a look. Oh wait, I'm not. I'm on this screen. Uh-huh. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, where was I? I was just looking for. Oh, that's what I was looking for. Where the hell are the stream stats? OBS has been so freaking weird lately. I do not know what its deal has been. No, it's literally just okay. Okay, whatever. We're just gonna deal with it, I guess. It's just always uh-huh. Is it this? No, it can't be that. Preview? No, that's not. No, that's not it either. Activity feed? No. Duplicate? Oh my god. Okay, whatever. Let's get on to Jubilee, shall we?
Going to not want to leave. I don't want someone.
Oh my God.
Like,
you are not a Republican. There's just.
Oh, this is gonna be fun. I do. Oh, the infighting is to my is yummy to my tummy.
There's no freaking way.
behind every
I'm
never Trump
excited.
Republican
Oh,
is
I'm
a story
excited.
for why that person is weak.
Did you mean Barack Hussein Obama?
January 6th itself. I mean, was it a bad day? Absolutely. It was a bad day.
Bruh.
Quiet, you guys.
This is UFC for me. Is this how it feels watching
Can you guide
watching
everybody
a
in
close
deep breath?
UFC fight? Oh man, oh shit, oh boy. Let's fucking go. Okay.
Hey,
Where's
my name's
the- like I
John.
said,
host
we're
a
gonna-
podcast called Radical
we're
Empathy.
gonna be
I also
doing-
directed the Flat Earthers episode
Boo.
of Middle Ground, and as punishment, I've been asked by Ragini to moderate today's episode between pro-Trump Republicans and anti-Trump.
1.25.
First
Let's
prompt
fucking
is,
go.
Trump is an honest man. Will the agreeers please step
Oh my
forward?
god.
Fact-checking in this episode was powered by Ground News.
Oh yeah, I think I heard about Drag MAGA Barbie or whatever the fuck. Oh man.
Coverage across the political spectrum.
Hey, it's Ground News.
Lady Maga, why don't you start us off?
Trump is an honest man because
Their name is
he
Lady
has-
MAGA. Whoa, what the fuck, bruh? How is this person existing in this movement? How? I need to know how. How have they tolerated this? Wait, where are the comment section? Wait a minute. Truly, okay. Okay. Really, I'm like in shock. Lady okay,
stood
we
up
need to do our
for the
research,
truth
clearly.
in this country and paid the price for it. He has been persecuted more than any other political figure in modern times. And if
Holy
he wasn't telling
shit.
the truth, I don't think
Well-
he would stick by it. And also, all of the witch hunts haven't really found him caught
Oh, hello,
as a
River.
liar, so to speak, yet. So
You
I
were
believe he's an
sleeping.
honest man. And I
Did
mostly
you get
believe
shocked
he
when I
honestly
got excited?
loves this
Did
country.
I wake you
That's
up?
the
I'm
most
sorry.
important.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think by virtue of how
What
honest
the
he is with his remarks and how off the cuff he is proof of how honest
loveliest
he really
drag
is.
queen
If perhaps
in
he was more like
America.
Obama, someone willing to lie simply to get votes to kind of hide his perspectives, he might be a little more popular
Oh, man.
by some of the other folks here today. But because he's very honest, he says things like "shithole country." You know, he's impugned sometimes for that off-the-cuff honesty that I
Man.
really respect, considering that we don't have a lot of honest politicians.
And we can't forget about creative editing. in
Drag
today's
artist,
society.
political activist,
Trump is a
drag Donald Trump
transactional man.
2020.
He's from
Resident
Queens,
Salt Lake.
and if anybody knows people from Queens,
Geez, doxing
people from
Wikipedia?
Queens like to exaggerate because they were always against the Bronx.
What's his
or
unveiling as Lady
Brooklyn,
Medicare
or
was generally
Manhattan.
unwelcome
So it's part of
by
his
many
personality,
drag
but
queens
what
in
I really
Utah.
like about him
Okay.
is not only
What's it
you know,
says is
has he been wrong about
aware
certain
of Trump
things?
supporters were
Who is it?
uncomfortable with his
Is he a
presence in Donald
perfect
Trump
human
campaign
being?
rallies,
Who is?
but that he was generally
But do I
left
think he's
alone
out
and he
there
felt
intentionally lying to
felt the beauty of
American
America.
people?
It's
No,
like, fuck
I do
off.
And I think
Attended a
Trump, if he
demonstration
were a
in
liar,
Freedom
his life would
Plaza.
actually be a lot.
Oh, interesting. What do we got? When he attended a demonstration to overturn the election in in Freedom Plaza in November 2020. Speaker Nick Fuentes burned him out and said, "That is disgusting. I don't want to see that." Yeah, he only wants to see gay twink porn, right? Causing the crowd to chant shame. Gay twink porn, from what I understand.
Easier because the press has come after him for things like using tax loopholes, and he'll come out and say, "Yeah, I use them. All rich people use them.
You
You're
made the
stupid
law.
if you don't use them. Why wouldn't I?" And I think he's so unfiltered that he
Okay.
almost wouldn't
Come
have
here.
the ability to lie. That's just not his personality, and he actually gets attacked for being too honest. And
I
too
love the
blunt.
idea that they're like, I love the idea that like Trump being like, "Yes, I do lie on my taxes," and they go, "Wow, what an honest guy." How do you, dude? How do these people? Ow!
All right, let's bring in our disagreeers.
Watch.
Here
Watch.
comes
Oh, you're such a
I
good
think if Trump was an honest man, then he wouldn't be on trial right now for lying about having sex with a porn star and using his business records to cover
Oh,
it up
this
so
guy.
that his
Okay.
campaign supporters wouldn't
Go
find
on.
out. I think
Okay,
Go
so
on.
any-
Go on.
anytime
Go on.
anytime that MAGA places Trump up with Jesus, I mean, this happens all the
That
time.
doesn't happen. That's a
It
lie.
absolutely
That's a
does.
lie.
There was a
That's such.
segment in the Daily Show with I'm forgetting his name, Jordan Klepper. There was a segment in the Daily Show
who's
with Jordan
Jordan
Klepper
Klepper? Who
where they
cares
went
what
to a
Jordan
Trump
Klepper
rally.
is?
Let's let him
They went to a
talk.
Trump rally. There was a segment where they went to a Trump rally and they asked supporters at the Trump rally, "Hey, does Trump remind you of Jesus?" And they were like, "Yeah, he's been so persecuted."
Right, but what does that have to do with his honesty? You just
Dude, didn't Marjorie? Wait a minute. Didn't Marge? One second, Marjorie. Oh boy. Oh, are people turning against Samantha Irving now? Oh no. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. Yeah, didn't Marjorie Taylor Greene already do that exact thing at that one? Oh my god. She really is like yeah, because I remember Marjorie fuck, god damn, okay. MTG. I'm not doing it anymore. What did he say? Trump Jesus? Jesus? Like I remember seeing, okay, here we go. Show me the video, show me the clip. Hit me with the clip. What the fuck am I looking at? Here it is. Oh, I thought it was a picture. Okay.
His most
Don't care.
To worship
Just
and bring back the greatest.
no.
It would be
No.
suicide before Biden. Rhetoric, the shared fan videos. Moment.
Don't care.
This morning,
Is this like not about the topic?
with the head of going as supporters dumped of GOP nominee and Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene comparing Trump.
Is also a convicted felon.
Here we go.
Oh, President Trump is a convicted felon. Well, you want to know something? The man that I worship is also a convicted felon. And he was murdered on a Roman cross.
We're here
Yep.
in Sunset Park.
Like
where they went to a Trump rally. There was a segment where they went to a Trump rally and they asked supporters at the Trump rally, "Hey, does Trump remind you of Jesus?" And they were like, "Yeah, he's been so persecuted."
Right, but what does that have to do with his honesty? You just brought up the if I can finish, you brought up the Stormy Daniels incident, which he's literally being sued.
Like this lady was like, that doesn't happen. People don't do that. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, a sitting congresswoman, does that exact thing.
For
Love
saying,
it. I love it.
Rape. Right, he's being sued.
No. Stormy Daniels is saying that he had sex with a porn star. Yeah, sorry. I'm talking about Stormy Daniels, the case going on in New York right now, where he's being sued because he covered up a $130,000 payment by falsifying his business. No, he did.
Allegedly.
He did. He 100% did.
Well, no, that's like settled law. He has publicly stated his plans to appeal, widely raising the question of what will happen next, especially around the upcoming election. More than 600 articles have been published on this worldwide, with nearly 70% of coming from highly
Okay, and
credible
New York
sources.
City changed the
Oh,
law.
is this like a
making
ground
a
news thing?
Misdemeanor, a felony, to make it a criminal trial.
Okay, but lying and having it be a misdemeanor is not
Well,
any
and
different
again,
than
he
lying.
Well, that doesn't have anything to do with his credibility or his truthfulness. A, B, they didn't change the law. It's just an interpretation
He
of
said
the
he
law.
didn't have sex with her.
Yeah,
He
but
said he didn't.
He still made the
Were
payment
you
to her,
there?
and he falsified.
Well,
I don't know
a
if he
lot
had
of
sex with her or not.
celebrities make.
Also, keep in mind, like, people don't like the thing with the Stormy Daniels payment. The thing with the Stormy Daniels payment was just that he like what's the word I'm looking for? It was an accounting error. It was literally like, if you had paid this out of your own checking account, this would have been fine. But you did it out of the campaign funds, and you also listed it incorrectly. Or no, yeah, I think it was just that they listed it as like something that it wasn't. You know, is literally because what did he list it as? He listed it as lawyers' fees or whatever, and it's like, no, that's not what that was for. He paid, like, somebody else paid her, and then you paid him with lawyers' fees, and that's not true.
Doesn't matter if he had sex.
I don't think a
And it
porn star
wasn't
is a
done-
celebrity, with all due
Yeah,
respect.
It actually has nothing to do with if he had sex
so
with her.
I really don't care what you have to say.
Okay.
Your time's obviously a lot more.
What a miserable piece of shit. This woman's kids do not talk to her at all.
You know what? I left my son's
enabling.
birthday party an hour before he turned 9 just to be here because I
You didn't know it was going to be his birthday?
No, I did know it was
Alright.
going to be.
Okay, we'll get back on
I do
topic.
want to keep. I want to keep the focus on.
Imagine living around these people. So
Focus
catty.
on the prompt.
So if
or
I can
fire-
ask this young
fire
man,
an
because he seems to bring up these trials a lot. So can I ask you?
Yeah.
Do you think that there has ever been an instance of using the law to hurt a political enemy? Has that ever happened in this country?
I think that
Has that ever happened in this country?
Absolutely. I think that
Okay,
some of
so-
the no, listen, let me finish. Okay. I think that some of the cases against Trump are a little bit stretched. I will give you that. But at the same time, Trump did falsify these business records, and we've known about it for the past 5 years. It hasn't been brought to court because he was president. But as soon
That's
as he
what they
was
were,
president,
business
they brought
records,
it to
sorry.
court. There was $130,000.
Like, if you want to make the argument that it wouldn't have gone as far as it did, and like if Trump was just a private citizen and he never ran in 2016, totally agree. Totally agree. Absolutely, 100%. I'd be willing to agree with that. Like, yeah. But at the end of the day, the law was still broken. The difference is that once you step out into politics, you are scrutinized so much more heavily, especially as the president. Like the idea that Trump made this payment, right? Trump made the payment that he made. If he had done so as a private citizen and not as a former president, and certainly not as a political figure, would it have been news? No. Would it have gone as far? No, because he just doesn't grab that much attention back then. But after being the president, you're kind of attention grabbing. You're kind of a big deal, whether you like it or not. So hold that out, brother. I don't know what to tell you. It's like anything else. If you're like a YouTuber, if you're like me, like a streamer, and I do something like wrong, right? If I do it wrong and nobody is, and it's just me with my, you know, small, like sub 100 follower count, that nobody's gonna bat an eye. The world moves on. But if I'm if I'm like a Hassan level and I make a mistake or I say something incorrect or I say something stupid, whatever it might be, you get more attention for it and you get more flack for it. That's just how that's just how it works. And that's no different from the law at the end of the day. He would have gone through some processes. They would have given him a fine and called it a day. But because he's an ex-president, it became a bigger story, which then he got scrutinized a lot
That he
more.
falsified as a business expense. So if you're going to say
Like,
that
he
he
still
was being
broke the
honest
law
about that, he
at the
wasn't
end of
being
the
honest.
day.
It doesn't matter whether it's a misdemeanor.
And
or
yet
felony.
they're charging
It's
it with
still
a
a lie.
campaign.
Right. So let's say I give you this one instance of dishonesty.
But it wasn't
How does
one.
that
Look
prove that
about
in its
Jenny
totality,
Carroll.
President Trump is more dishonest,
I challenge
especially
you.
versus
Let's-
other
Alyssa,
politicians?
RC.
Right?
Why wouldn't you
So
want to?
you're giving me
I don't
one
think the
example.
prompt
Why
was
wouldn't
more
you want to be honest
dishonest.
about your business dealings? Though, isn't
It's
that
just,
literally
is he an
one of
honest
the most
man?
founding marks of American?
Again,
the charge
we
is a
can
lie.
debate the intricate.
What do you mean, dipshit? You never want to be honest about your business. What the fuck? The only thing you want to be your business. Jesus, these people.
Of this trial, which is literally being legislated right now in court. So
I would argue
but
that
I'm saying,
his
let's say
entire
you're right.
rhetoric is a lie. He's campaigning in 2024 on the fact that he won the 2020 election. He did not win the 2020 election.
How
He
many
is
presidents-
0 for 60 in court
Facts.
cases.
Well, let's not even forget the
He is
entire
0
tagline of
put a
Make
banner
America
up-
Great Again.
How many
America was
presidents
already
have
great.
been elected? Not how many bellwether counties do they have to win to become
It doesn't
president?
matter.
No,
There
it
has
does
not been a
matter.
single proven
Historically-
case of fraud.
Hold the L. Hold the L, ma'am. Hold
Right,
the
there's
L.
not been a
Wait, I
single
want to
case
just pull in
of fraud.
voices who haven't spoken yet.
It's funny that she said that, like, this bitch says that, and it's like, bitch, we have the Electoral College. We have one of the most undemocratic ways of conducting our elections. What are you even talking about? A Republican hasn't won a popular vote in this country for what, 20 years? Like, fucking spare
Sorry,
me.
what's your name?
Travis.
Travis, you were trying to get in here?
The issue that I personally take with the honesty of Trump is that the entire tagline of Make America Great Again is inherently dishonest because America was already great. Sure, we've got a lot of issues that are going on in the country. We've got racial division, we've got political division, even the factionalism between the
Bruh,
political
fucking
sides
Hyde
are
over
an
here
issue.
from
But that doesn't mean
that
that
70s
America isn't
show's gotta
already
killing
inherently
me.
great. We've got so many great policies that are in place. The American dream is still alive, I believe, personally.
Can I ask, did you take that directly from Elizabeth Warren or Hillary?
Neither.
Oh, I've heard them say that many times. I was just curious.
Well, it doesn't make it any
Whoa! What a fucking wow! What a genius! What a genius
Well, it's
rhetorician.
true that they did say it. I mean, do you think that the American dream is dead? Do you think people just can't move
Well,
up?
if America is so
Us?
great under the
Let me
leadership of Barack Obama and Joe Biden, then why even bother being a Republican?
But just to close the loop, let's.
Good question. Excellent question.
We got lots of great prompts.
He asked me a question I want to answer with a general statement. A lot of people would call you, our opposition here, rhinos. I will not use that word. I consider you Democrats.
And what does rhino mean?
Republican in name only.
That's
I
just
consider you a
Can I
Democrat
respond?
as well as you.
Yeah. And then let's.
I just can't. I don't understand how you can say that. I have.
I would really love to know what Republicans would call Lady MAGA. I don't think it's a rhino
conservative
either.
values. I have conservative values on abortion. I have conservative values on education. I just don't like a cult leader leading our cause.
Can I ask you, will you be voting for Biden or Trump, or are you sitting out?
I will be voting for Biden because I don't.
so
want
yeah, so
to
you're
vote for
conservative.
How is that a
Thank you.
Democrat?
How are you a Democrat if you vote for a Democrat?
Because I don't want someone in.
Well, no, that's party alignment and affiliation is not the same thing as who you vote for. Like voting at the end of the day is not a people. I think a lot of times look at voting as like, oh, I'm joining this team. You can be a Republican and vote for a Democrat. Like that doesn't make you not a Republican. It just means that the Republican candidate that was nominated wasn't to your liking. It's not really like Democrats do this all the time. There are long Democratic voters who voted for Trump because they weren't into any of the candidates. They weren't into Hillary, which is fine. That's like your party affiliation should not be a lock-in for your vote. You should the whichever party you're affiliated in should still have to earn your vote. I think.
That's going to not.
I don't think that's an unreasonable standard.
Oh my God!
Like
you are not a Republican.
At the end of 4 years,
We had gotten to a point where, let's say there is an instance where Trump it's proven that he was dishonest about something. Are you willing to look past that? You were trying to make that point.
Well, the point I had made, and I didn't get an answer from either
course they
folks,
are.
which is comparatively, is Trump more honest than other politicians? And
That's not the prompt. The prompt is he honest? As an overall metric, is he honest? He has gone bankrupt how many times? He has not paid people how many times? Like, this question isn't really, and it's also, to be honest, it's a stupid question, but like, who cares if the guy's honest? He's a politician. Politicians are almost by definition dishonest because they deal in rhetoric.
we've given examples of how he is and how that has actually led to persecution from him. In fact, you're only kind of proving this. You agree that lawfare exists, but for some reason you don't think it's applicable in his criminal trial. So my question is, do you think he's comparatively honest based upon the fact that he's off the cuff and very authentic?
So first
Would
of all,
you give me that?
just because all of the trials
he's
aren't the best
authentically
cases doesn't
stupid.
mean that some of the trials aren't great cases. Like for example, he kept files at Mar-a-Lago for 6 months with warnings from the FBI and
Presidential Records
CIA,
Act.
and
So did
he had
Biden,
the chance
though.
to give them back, and he
And
didn't.
he
And so now
was
he's on trial
under
for
the
it. That's a
Presidential
clear
Records
crime. The same thing with Stormy Daniels. That's a clear crime. So
Do you notice like everything is always just like, but somebody else did that, but somebody else did that. And it's like, well, no, that doesn't, that just means he's as dishonest as everybody else,
I
guys.
think that him being honest about certain things is okay. But if you're not honest about the big stuff, if you're not honest about that Americans can trust our elections.
You think Biden's more honest?
I think on the issues that matter, he might be.
Well, when Biden was asked to return the documents that he accidentally kept at his house, he handed them over. They didn't need to raid his the Biden home. So yeah, I definitely think Biden beats him in that honesty game right there.
Because
I bring up classified files. Biden has mishandled classified files as well. I don't see how you can.
But he didn't willfully do that.
Oh,
He gave them back when the FBI asked him.
Okay, let's
Yes, he's just incompetent because he's an old man, because he's a fucking ancient dinosaur. And also he gave them back when he was aware of them. The problem that Trump ran into, and the reason why he's on trial for him, is because he refused to give them back. That's why. That is a crime. You cannot hold on to classified documents. And if they're found that you are, if you're not willing to cooperate, then you can deal with the law.
Reset, because we're gonna get to all the good stuff again. So let's reset next round.
Hey there, how did that
Oh my
conversation
God.
make you feel? To political, even this video, free app.
Pretty awful. Shush, shush, shush. I'm here for violence.
Are Democrats.
Spiritual wellness.
Okay.
The agreeers, please step forward.
Okay, we already know
Joe
this. They
Biden
already
is
like,
gonna pursue a more conservative, right-wing agenda.
2020
They
election was rigged.
already answered this.
The next
Okay,
prompt
here we go.
is the 2020 election was rigged. Will the agreeers please
Like
step forward?
they already addressed this. They just think they're rhinos. What are you gonna do? That's just life on that one.
Sit over here this time too.
Yeah. I studied the lighting before I came here. That seat, and this seat had the best lighting.
Yeah, so just so we're all clear, no one said there's no evidence of fraud. The decisions that were made by judges was that there was not enough fraud to overturn the election. So it's an analytical decision that I never saw any actual test on how that can be proved.
The prompt says it was rigged. You
Right.
believe it was rigged.
100%.
And why?
Okay, do you have... This dude keeps coming in trying to be like the smartest guy in the room and kind of just falls flat on his face each time.
Well, number one, there's anomalies in almost every swing state. Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia. Mail-in balloting was put in as a tool in order for the left to pump more votes. Republicans have been fighting against voter fraud and for election integrity for years. I guess some of these people, maybe 2020 was the first time they ever thought that an election could be rigged, but Republicans have been fighting against purging old inactive voter names off of rolls for a long time. President Trump, one of the first things he did was he tried to get secretaries of states to cooperate and submit data so they can prove the fraud was happening. And what happened? Democrat state secretary of states did not.
Oh, by the way, they want to purge data. They want to purge data so that when you go in the vote, you're not on the voter rolls and everyone has to re-register. And if everyone has to re-register, that means some people will forget to, or some people aren't going to be aware that they have to re-register. And then Republicans can win because Republicans usually win at lower turnout. That's keep in mind, Republicans win elections through low turnout because they have a smaller base. They have a smaller base of voters, but that base is more passionate. Democrats win when there is a larger turnout because a lot more people kind of default to Democrat candidates because Democratic candidates are just a lot more amenable to independents, a lot more amenable to people who aren't involved in politics. To be a Republican is to be a weirdo and have really weird, what's the word? Kind of gross politics. So naturally, most normal people aren't Republicans. Republicans make up a smaller percentage of the voter base in this country. So again, when voter turnout is low, Republicans tend to win. When voter turnout is high, they tend to lose. So a tactic that Republican-led states have been enacting is to purge voter rolls, meaning that then if there's mistakes, if people get pushed off of the voter rolls when they're not supposed to be, or whatever the case might be, then, when people go in to vote, then their votes get challenged, or they're not able to vote, or they're not registered, or whatever. Instead of, it's also why they're not into automatic registration on citizenship, or once you turn 18. But then, they're hoping that those little numbers will depress enough of the vote so that they can get an edge in winning. That's why.
Agree to comply. And Uniparty Secretary of State also did the same thing.
And just so I can be crystal clear, just because it's a very technical thing, you're saying there were anomalies, you don't believe they were rigorously investigated.
I believe that they were all swept under the rug, and we can get into every individual.
Well, it's too bad that there were investigations into quite a lot of them since the Trump administration. The Trump campaign team filed lawsuits against quite a lot of those
situations,
states.
such as what happened in Maricopa County, what happened in Fulton County in Georgia. But those intricacies might get extrapolated when these jokesters come up here. But I think that the proof is in the pudding. The election was rigged.
Well, there is no proof. All you have is the assertion that maybe it was possibly, potentially, maybe could be. I don't know, but I think it was rigged. But the idea of being I have not been sufficiently provided with evidence that it wasn't rigged is not the same thing as it was rigged. Sorry.
The thing that I saw as well, when these cases went to court, most of them were dismissed upon standing. The evidence was never heard. And that's something that they don't tell you. Another thing, it was...
Yes, because multiple judges looked at the evidence and went, yeah, there's no case here. Not all, that is true. Not all of them went to trial because a vast majority of them were not suited to withstand trial.
Almost like death.
And keep in mind, a lot of these federal judges are Trump-appointed judges. So it
by 1,000 cuts. We had COVID. Mass mail-in voting is not safe or secure. There's no chain of custody. I do not believe that Joe Biden got more votes than Barack Obama. I just don't. Donald Trump got the most votes of any former president in history.
Don't you think that runs against your entire argument? If Trump got more, if both candidates got more votes, doesn't that show that like, oh, it doesn't, like, it would be one thing if Trump got less votes and Biden got more votes, as an example. No, get that. No, off of the rig. No on the rig. No on the rig. No sitting on the rig. But yeah, it would be one thing. Let's be clear. Let's think of a scenario where it would be really sussy. If we were living in a scenario where Trump lost a significant amount of support between the 2016 and the 2020 election, that would be pretty suspect. Incumbents just generally do well. So it would be pretty fucking weird for Trump to have lost support within those 4 years of his administration. But he didn't, did he? He gained voters afterwards, which is what you would generally expect out of an incumbent. Biden just outpaced him.
And yet we had the machines shut down at night. I saw ballots pulled from under a table. I saw a woman scan them again and again and again. I watched the hearing when
where'd you see those?
Where'd I see that?
Yeah, just.
I saw it when they were having the hearings
on the internet
when they were presenting the cases. Gotcha. I also saw.
So when a lawyer on the Trump side presented a bunch of like paper thin evidence, you were like, "That's good. Sounds good to me." Like all of these have been debunked already. Like, you know, like the whole like somebody pulled the thing under a table. Yeah, they stored it under a table, and then they put it on the table. They scanned it multiple times. Yeah, it didn't scan the first time. It's just people who don't. These people are looking for anything. This woman, this troglodyte over here is just looking for any excuse she can to say Trump should have won, because it would hurt her soul way too much to admit that homeboy just lost. Just hold the L. It's fine. Just hold the L. There's nothing wrong with admitting you just lost. It's fine.
I lost my train of thought. It's okay. But I just think, you know, we had the Zuckerbucks. We had just, it was.
The what? The Zuck? I don't even know what she's talking about.
One thing, it was multiple things coming together. I would love to see California get rid of mass mail-in voting. I'm fine with absentee ballots. My son is a Marine. And when I ran for office, he had just gotten out of boot camp. And after he got out of boot camp, he came home for 2 weeks before being shipped to Pensacola, voted by mail. We tracked his ballot. He never got there. It never got there. So if my own child, when I was a candidate, his vote didn't get there, why should I believe that doesn't happen a lot?
And to expand upon this a little bit, one of the biggest things that the left likes to bring up when it comes to 2016.
Wait. So you tracked his ballot. It didn't make it. Does that mean like it never showed up in the system? Or when you were tracking it, it had not made it to the polling place yet? And not only that, but lady, I don't know if you know this, but if your ballot doesn't make it, if you do the little like tracking ballot thing, all you have to do is report that your ballot is missing or that it wasn't counted, and they will go back and search for it, or you can usually like work that out. I don't know what the process is, but I'm pretty sure it's not just like, oh, you mailed in your ballot and it didn't and it seemed to have gotten lost in the system. Tough shit. Like usually there's a process to that. Like let's go take a look. Actually, we'll let this play, but I'll go Google it really quickly.
Is actually Facebook ads, Facebook memes basically trying to influence the electorate via social media. That was considered election interference back then. Fast forward to 2020, and you actually have sites like Facebook and even Twitter blocking the Hunter Biden laptop story, which we know for a fact independents especially say would have absolutely swayed the way they voted in the 2020 election. And
yeah, because there was because all the articles had dick pics. That's why, because a lot of articles had dick pics in it. Also, the Hunter Biden story was pretty unverified, and also who cares? Actually, you know what? I'll throw him a bone. I don't give a fuck. I don't really care. Facebook should have let it happen, except for the dick pics. As long as it was an appropriately written story, then it should have been allowed to play. But also, what was there interesting about the Hunter Biden story anyway? What, he does drugs and fucks? Like, really? That's your guys' big a big Hail
And
Mary
it's not
pass.
just the Hunter Biden laptop story. A bunch of other right-wing accounts have also been throttled by big tech. We know this. There was a push toward authoritative sources on sites like YouTube, which basically is the mainstream media, which is leftist media. So there was an attempt by big tech to control the narrative, which they did, suppress anti-Biden stories, which they did. I don't know how you can say that, maybe a Russian bot posting on Facebook, well, that's election interference, but Facebook itself, the platform, throttling important news, that's not election interference.
And this isn't a left or right thing.
Exactly.
I can say I posted the New York Post story. My Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube channels were censored immediately at the same time, and then they took my business pages. That should not happen in America.
Amen.
Just, focusing one more time on the prompt, just because I think this is really
I'd
important.
love to contribute something.
Yeah, and maybe you can respond to this.
It's about the prompt.
The word rigged. Do any of you believe there was like a coordinated, vast effort?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
Could you kind of explain?
I just need a clarification from you. You mentioned someone named Barack Obama. Did you mean Barack Hussein Obama?
Yes, that's the
Thank
one.
you. I wasn't sure. Anyway, so with the election in 2020, number one, we had unprecedented anomalies in the way that everybody voted. So that right there puts things into question because it was the first time we'd ever done it this way. And we all saw the voting places with cardboard over the windows so that Republicans couldn't see in.
So everybody couldn't see in, guys.
I'm willing to say, I don't have proof. I'm not 100% sure, but what I am 100% sure of is there has not been a completely transparent, bipartisan investigation of this so that we don't even have.
Yeah, so I keep looking this up. So I've been looking this up. To enter your ballot into ballot tracks, like if it's tracking it, she's just lying. You know what? I'm gonna stop because it's just kind of like, why am I wasting my time? She's a Republican. She's just lying.
About it. The fact that we're arguing about it means that there has not been a solid, concrete, fact-based investigation into that election.
And people.
Yeah, that's not really how that works, especially when you're like, especially when your political, like, especially when your politics revolve around a specific individual. The idea that you're like, well, you just haven't presented me with any of like anything that convinces me. It's like, well, it really depends on your threshold. You always got to ask, like, what piece of evidence would give you confidence that the election wasn't rigged or that the election was fairly won or just generally won by Joe Biden? And what do they always say? Nothing. You can't convince me. So why have the conversation at all? And these are those exact type of people who, no matter what you say, no matter if you say there obviously is some fraud, it's a country of 333 million Americans, there obviously is going to be some fraud. It was not significant enough. There are not huge oversights that anybody has been able to prove that there was direct fraud, systemic fraud. What is it that you want? What is it the thing that you're looking for? That it's like, if this didn't happen, if I'm wrong that this happened, then I'll admit it. And it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist for Trump
You need
supporters.
to trust the vote, or this is never going to go away. And I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican.
I don't trust the vote right now.
It's not up for debate.
Most
As you
people do.
proved, was there
It's just
media
Republicans who
interference?
don't.
Was there censorship? Yes.
Yes.
Did that interfere with the election? Yes.
Yes.
Was there one single party pushing for unbridled mail-in voting?
Oh, by the way, also, like, any media corporation or any media entity is not is like there is not a you do not have a right to CNN covering your story, and you do not have a right for CNN to cover your story in any way you would like.
Votes because they thought that could increase their chance of winning. Unequivocally, yes. I think that.
Like, Fox News exists. The argument this person is making would invalidate all of Fox News coverage ever. So unless you're willing to nuke Fox News, what I bet you none of them are, then you can cry me a fucking
Proof
river.
in the pudding, the election was rigged. It's not up for debate.
Amen.
Okay, let's bring in our disagreeers.
I personally would have voted for Trump in 2020. I think for me, a lot of the shift in how I view, versus Republican Democrat versus like Trump being an anomaly has come after the 2020 election with his behavior on, the election being rigged and things. But I think that I was willing to hear him out. He's a sitting president. He makes claims of fraud. You have to, respect that because you're in office. Like, it's especially if it's in your own party, you have to hear them out. But when there were 60 court cases, and you can say that they were, I know you think that they weren't heard.
They were
on,
dismissed on
right,
standing.
but
Let's hear what he said.
most of those judges, or at least half of them, were pro-Trump judges, and all of those cases went up to the Supreme Court. Okay, every single one of the important cases went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court denied the writ of certiorari. All right, and so the 6-3 Supreme Court that Donald Trump had just put
A
in, that
conservative,
conservatives
yeah,
celebrated as being
a conservative
legitimate
Supreme
and
Court.
they bring about a lot of great change for conservatives. They didn't accept any of the charges that Donald Trump made against the electorate. And then you have Sidney Powell, you have Rudy Giuliani, all getting criminally charged because they lied about the election.
Sydney just won her case.
Okay, but that
Sydney just won 2 days ago.
Go into specifics.
Texas Appellate Court did recently reject any attorney disciplinary charges against Donald Trump's ally Sidney Powell, finding that prosecutors failed to prove she engaged in fraud and dishonesty. Nearly said, okay.
She won.
Saying what?
She was not guilty.
Oh, geez, a Texas Appellate Court. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, look it up.
Okay,
2 days ago.
but there have been a bunch of suits.
Rudy Giuliani is still.
Yeah, Rudy Giuliani is definitely one.
America's mayor.
So, but there were suits made, like for example, Fox News settled $787 million with Dominion voting. Okay, James O'Keefe settled with the people that he defamed through the Erie, Pennsylvania, like post office.
Whistleblower
person.
defamed him, not James O'Keefe. A
Yeah, but
whistleblower said
he and his
heard
media
election
group, which
fraud.
published it,
Right. So
as
there's
being
nuance here.
censory.
It sounds like you don't understand the nuance of a lot of these issues. You just said half the,
The
judges.
nuance meaning
you
what?
said half the judges who dismissed these cases were pro-Trump judges. What does
Yeah,
that mean?
there was-
They were appointed by Bush. They weren't
No, they were
appointed
appointed.
by Trump.
There was
Half-
a lot. There
half
were
of the
Republican judges, right?
So they were
are you saying?
appointed by Trump.
Are you saying
Yeah,
there's
where
like
do you
this
mean-
massive scheme among the judges? The judges got together beforehand and they were like, oh, like you know what? We actually all
telling
hate
you, your
Donald
information
Trump.
is wrong.
believe they all hate
Half of
Donald
them
You
were-
think all of them
You're
got
saying-
together?
You're
I
saying
think
we
also
believe-
before they
Fact
get
check.
so
Half of the dismissals were not judges that were appointed by Trump. That's
No,
just
not
factually
factually.
You're
wrong.
saying his information is wrong. What information do
He
you
just
feel?
said that half of the judges that dismissed the cases were pro-Trump judges. And meaning
Pro-Trump,
what? What does
as
that
meaning
mean?
some of them were even appointed by Trump, right?
Half of them?
No, not half of them. I'm saying pro-Trump,
sad.
as in like Republican appointees.
That does
right?
not mean you're pro-Trump if you were appointed
In the
by
2020
Bush.
election, I would
You
say
have
that
a
the vast
fundamental
majority.
misunderstanding of how
no,
the law works.
I would say that the vast
Judges are
majority.
not political. They are.
Well,
Judges aren't guys, my dude, my brother in Christ. Judges aren't political. Yeah. Okay. See, people like to say this whenever they want to defend. So Republicans say this a lot of times because they know that their strategy has been to subvert the will of the American people through the judicial system. Therefore, they've been like, no. These judges are apolitical. They're just calling balls and strikes. Never mind that we have the Federalist Society, who has worked very hard to put very specific kinds of judges into power over others. Never mind that they've been appointed by that they, at the end of the day, no matter what, are appointed by party members of political parties. Never mind that. It's just insane.
Judges are not
Absolutely
political.
insane.
So that means that they didn't make political decisions to dismiss the election charges, right?
You saying that a judge was a pro-Trump judge is fact.
Ooh, actually, good point too.
Actually,
Well
no.
done.
But that
There
means
is
that
no
you're
such
saying
thing as a
politics
pro-Trump judge.
politics wasn't involved in the
I don't think you understand. This
Politics
is
wasn't
your
involved in
point,
their
not mine.
decision, right?
You said these judges were pro-Trump. I'm
No,
saying
was
that wasn't
politics
true.
involved in their decision? I'm saying if politics was involved, they were pro-Trump.
Dismissing
Was politics involved in their decision?
dismissing a
Yes or
case
no?
does not mean that the voter
Yes
fraud
or
didn't
no?
happen. As she just showed.
So if they
explained
thought
to
that
you-
there was voter fraud in the country,
See, the thing is this. So the reason. So this is good that this anti-Trump person is hitting on this, because at the end of the day, he is making the point. He's being consistent because he's like, look, I think politics are involved at all the levels of this. So do I think they're pro-Trump judges? Yeah. And do I think that they still let it go because they're, I don't know, they have some integrity? Yeah. But this guy is arguing, no. Judges are completely neutral except the fact that they dismiss cases against Trump, because that had to be political. That was part of the
you
rigging.
think that they would have said, oh yeah, this is an important thing that we need to solve? Or do you think they would
Not
have
if they
said,
want him out.
it's fine? You think
Not
all
if-
60
not
of the
if
judges?
not if their
You think-
standard was there enough fraud to overturn the election?
You think all 60 judges just didn't
That is
want to
a-
pursue it?
I just-
Well,
I think- I'm explaining to you.
I think the most
the
important thing
disagreement
to
is clear
remember
there.
here is we need to focus on joy, like the joy you felt when Joe Biden won.
That is not joy that I felt, actually. I hate it when
Lady
Joe Biden-
Maga's always.
What is the point of this person? Like I can't, like, do they have like,
was rooting for Trump.
Right.
Was
I
rooting
haven't,
for
heard, I haven't heard anyone challenge whether or not censorship was a
this is
problem.
like what
would
conservative
agree.
memes do to your
Censorship was a
brain.
problem, but censorship is a problem on all sides.
I feel like
Also, you can't argue censorship. You guys have Fox News. Spare me. Again, if you want to do the censorship thing, that's fine. But then I don't want to hear. Then like everybody here who's a pro-Trump supporter needs to go, okay, yeah, like Fox News is obviously bad. But none of them would do that. We all know none of them would do that.
We've heard some arguments from here. We have a clear disagreement
Obviously,
between you two.
censorship. I have too
who
much
else- who
cleavage,
just-
so censorship is alive and well.
Yeah. What,
I mean, one thing is, it's not like Trump won by lost by 8 electoral votes or 12. He got killed.
It was not close.
He didn't just need Michigan.
He needed so many of the states. And the other thing is, guess who's winning in all this discussion that we're all having all these years about rigged elections? I have a friend that was in the CIA until 2022 that mostly dealt with Russia. And they said, Corey, they don't really care so much who's president. All they care about is the American people losing faith in their elections. That's what they want. And that's what's happening. And so we're losing, all of us.
Facts.
The fact that other could be China, but all of them love that our institution of we're trusting our elections is getting destroyed. And the other thing is, no matter who wins in November, the other side is going to say the other side stole it, and the country is going to end. It's over. The country ends if Biden wins, or the country ends if Trump wins. We're in a really dangerous place.
How about 26 years ago with Hillary? Everybody on the left was saying
I would agree with that.
But then shouldn't focus be in strengthening elections, things like voter ID laws?
Oh, totally. It should voter ID. I mean, that's obvious. I don't know why.
So if you agree that these laws should be passed to secure our elections, then if they're not passed, then our elections are unsecure.
Well, no,
right?
because Laura Trump is also promoting mail-in ballots now, right? Laura Trump said a few weeks ago.
It's because it's the law.
That, No, she said that they should.
It's because it's the
enforce
law.
mail-in
Do
ballots.
you believe that we should have voter ID?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I think
So we don't have that now, right?
But there are Democrat states that have that too.
So,
Like New York has voter ID.
but if you think we should have voter ID, but we don't have it now, then by conclusion of
doesn't
logic,
mean
doesn't
that
that mean our elections are insecure?
No, I mean yes, but like not to a point where like it's to a point where like it can be investigated, right? Just because every state doesn't
Not
have
if
voter
it's
ID,
dismissed on
it's been the standard for years. Just because we have a better standard doesn't mean the old standard
You
means that
agree our
the
elections are
party
insecure,
is,
but you don't think
no,
that
no, no,
they're
no, no,
rigged.
no. You think that the election is a conspiracy just because every state doesn't have voter ID. Is that what you're
think
saying?
what's driving the lack of security is a
ID in every
conspiracy. Yes.
state
The
is
lack of security is a conspiracy.
The lack of a reason, the motivation to push for voter
So why
ID,
did all-
to push for hand count. We don't want to push for that because we want elections
Well,
to be
let me just say it this way.
Because they're
hand
rigged.
counts, quote unquote hand counts, are disastrous. There was a case I just read about a few days ago where they tried to do a hand count for a local election for 50 votes, and it took them 6
Where?
hours
Who?
in Arizona. There was a county.
6
in Arizona.
hours. Oh no!
That's
It
not
took
true.
6 hours
That's
on
not true, by the way.
an
Let's just
election.
hear the
Oh
point.
no!
I live in Arizona.
Full
That's
Come on,
hours?
let's just hear the point.
What are we gonna do?
It was for I don't actually know. It was some state. I just read about it. You can probably fact check it afterwards.
Even if it takes 24
There was
hours.
100 people. I can tell you because I'm a state delegate. I was in that race. 100 people ran for state delegate. Everyone had to rank. The top 43 got in. So the people who did the hand count not only had to count one person, they have to rank ordinally
There was a small-
everyone. And
there
it
was a
wasn't 6
small
hours.
local
It took a
election.
couple of hours
There was
to
a
get the
small
hand count
local
done.
election, and there
Yes,
was 55
LD12.
votes.
I'm telling you.
And they had recount after recount, and they actually mismatched like the amount of counts that they had. So I'm saying that like if you do hand counts, like we have the technology. The technology is not inaccurate. If you do recounts, like it's just going to cause more mass chaos.
Young
The
man,
computers are always
You just
right,
agreed that our
guys.
elections
The
are insecure.
computers are
I want you to
always
think about what you just
They are
agreed
not.
on.
And
All right,
Dominion
I
voting
think-
is a Canadian.
we got it done?
Canadians do not use Dominion voting. They only use paper ballots because they recognize that any electronic system is going to be inherently insecure.
And you live in Alabama.
I've been
I
told
live
that I
in
look like Justin
California.
Trudeau. All right, we're gonna reset. Have you ever wondered what it's like to be a spiritual advisor to somebody who's on death row, or have you?
What the fuck am I hearing? Okay. Sorry guys, give me a second. I'm getting a thing from what the what is wrong with this? Okay. What is happening? Why should this message copyrighted content and third party content identified by somebody? I am highly confused. Interesting. Okay.
It's kind of lonely up here, guys.
We agree.
You're scared of us.
Anybody that goes up watches MSNBC.
I don't know if we're being recorded. I just want to go on record as saying that pure democracy is mob
Yeah,
rule.
let
We're
me
a constitutional
let me lower the severity.
Yeah.
Let me lower the severity.
No, I'm going to come up and sit here for one reason. Democracy, in its purest form, is mob rule. We are a constitutional republic. So if you want to consider Trump destroying
Well,
this idea of democracy that the Democrats and the left constantly pour out, we have to remember that democracy is mob rule. Donald Trump is pro-Constitution of the United States and thus does not tout democracy, 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 because that's farcical. So I sort of agree with that. I want to destroy the rhetoric that's all about democracy and start talking about that we are a constitutional republic. So that's kind of, sort of agreed, sort of
Thank you, Lady Maga. All right, if I change the word from ruined to weakened, who would come forward? And you can come forward.
That's a little better. I feel, do you want to start?
No, you got it.
I feel like, let's just call Trump what he really is. Kind of like me, he's a great actor and he has a lot of charisma and he's really good at giving the people what they want to hear. And he's selling them, he's kind of like a used car salesman, if you will, right? Like he has this great zest to like make this POS look fabulous. And he does it to the heart of America, who's what demographic is that? And going back to that question, would we have this issue and was it going to be violent when they stormed the Capitol? He's talking to this very small group of people who don't have much going for themselves. They go to work, they're 9-to-5ers, they are working factory jobs. I'm not trying to be mean, I'm just saying these are the
Not really that many factory
demographics,
jobs,
these
but
people that make America
argument.
great again. Like, that's what they live for. And Donald Trump gave them that gift of, yes, this POS, we know it's not good. That's Donald, but we're gonna jump on this bandwagon because you know why? People want one thing in life. They want to feel significant. And he makes people who, dare I say, aren't significant, feel significance. And when you have that need for significance in your life, people do crazy things.
So I actually think that this person is hitting on a a sensible element, or at the very least like I think they're hitting on like a real truth here, is that like you have a lot of people, I think, who are Trump supporters who just look at the world, look at where they're at in their lives, and they just go like, what am I, like, is this really it? Is like, am I screwed? Is it over for me already? And I guess you can kind of, I can understand to a good degree what the like, I can understand if you're living in like rural Nebraska and you're seeing the opportunities for your kids, a future dwindling and dwindling and dwindling, and you're looking at your options, and it's like, okay, in terms of politics, what are my options? My options are Joe Biden and the Democrats, who continue to kind of not address the problems and just kind of tell you, no, things are doing all right, everything's fine. There's a few problems that we got to fix, but everything's going all right. Or you have somebody who is at least speaking to your feeling that there are deep institutional problems, like there are serious issues. And I think for that, it's kind of like, okay, I get what you mean. I understand that you feel more heard by Trump and like the whole MAGA movement. But, you know, at the end of the day, one has to ask themselves, is feeling heard the same thing as actually being heard? And I feel like for a lot of Trump supporters, there's never the follow-up. There's never that follow-up of like, okay, are they actually addressing my issues? Or when I look at me like now and 4 years ago when Trump was in office, has anything changed? Or am I just more riled up? And for most people, I honestly think they're just more riled up. But has their life fundamentally changed? Probably not. Things have stayed mostly the same, I think, for most Americans. Things have just gotten more expensive and more unaffordable. But they were already unaffordable. So, but she's certainly speaking to, I think, a real driving force to the MAGA move.
Storm the Capitol because it makes them feel like they're alive, like they're a part of something.
But are you
and
saying-
that is ruining, I think, what people would idolize as real Republicans or conservatives, democracy and values and integrity, a word that we can't put synonymous with.
Can I ask you a follow-up? You know, so you're saying he has the ability to make people who vote for him feel significant. Do you think that's a trait that inherently weakens democracy, or it's how he used it?
I think it's how he used it, because we all need a little bit of significance in order to feel like I'm good enough to get in my car and drive down here and meet with other people and have this talk. But when you do crazy things like what we know happened on January 6th, that's when significance goes overboard. And I believe he's great at manipulating people. Look at him on The Apprentice. He was a star. People loved him. They lived for, you're fired. And it was this caricature, this larger-than-life creator. The problem was he became his character in real life. In IRL, as my son says. And that's what he takes into the office, and he is a lunatic. He says whatever he wants to say. It doesn't mean he's honest, he just has no couth, and he thinks he's above the law. And that is why he's not, or was it hindering democracy? What is the word? Weakening. Whatever you think to add to that, dear.
Yeah, so that was great. I mean, that's a good start. But I would just say, first of all, saying that Trump weakened democracy, to go back to a previous point, doesn't mean that I don't have conservative values. I think it means that I value my values more than the person. I think the thing that Trump did which weakened democracy the most was that he changed politics from a battle over values to a battle over person. And when
media
people,
attention, I
when
felt
people
like,
idolize values, then they do things to make those values appear in a society.
Yeah.
When people idolize a person, then who knows what happens.
Just attention.
For
and that
example, when Trump, yeah, exactly. When Trump was
Significance.
tweeting or truthing, I guess, about the FISA bill, he tweeted 2 words, and it was gonna pass, right? And then it did eventually pass, but it had to go through a lot more work to do so. He tweeted, "Kill FISA," and that's all it took for the MAGA wing of the House to come around and come and join him. Like he only has to say 2 words. And then, so yes,
they
do
follow
I
him,
think
like-
do I think our democracy is strong? Do I think our democracy will survive Trump? Yes, I hope so. I believe so. And I'm a young American. I don't really know how this is going to work out, but I have faith in our institutions. I think we do have the best. I think we do have the best country in the world, right?
Well, a lot of people
Regardless who's in
disagree with
charge.
that, though. I've traveled. I've been to 30-some countries. My
I
son's
would
been to 15. When we go there, they are embarrassed of us because of Trump.
Right.
And I'm embarrassed to admit I'm an American when I'm traveling abroad. You know where I say I'm from when I'm abroad? I say Hollywood. I'm from Hollywood. And they're, oh, you're Hollywood? But if I say the United States, they're like, oh, Trump. It's embarrassing.
I'm not embarrassed.
Can I ask you a
Yeah,
follow-up?
sure.
You said Trump made it less about values, more about person. When you look back on history, do you see any other presidents who had a similar following, or do you think he set that standard?
I think that as far as being a personality,
Considering also Trump is also a big, I think, Trump is not just a politician, and he's not just a pop culture figure. He is kind of a crossover, and I think when as that has mixed together, those two kinds of public figures, it has eroded, I think, the ability for Americans, I think, to really separate, oh, this is a person who's interested in the betterment of the country, is interested in a ideological direction for the country, yada, yada, yada. And somebody who is just looking for attention, somebody who is looking to be a bigger public figure, which isn't good. Our presidents shouldn't just be famous people, because that's never been a metric, I think, that's been favorable. Because not all if you're like Trump, you get enough donors sent it's even more egregious, because it's so much more obvious, where it's like, if donors send Trump enough money, does anybody think that he won't do what donors want? Sure, we know that politicians do that, Democrats and Republicans, but there's an expectation that they won't. So what do you do when there is no expectation that they won't? What do you do when there is no expectation for that? That's kind of, I think, the dangerous part. When we've normalized corruption and shallow political aligning.
We've never had someone
Shallow politics, I
that
should say.
made it as much of a centerpiece of their campaign as Donald Trump has. I think Donald Trump, coming off of TV as a personality, really made that the centerpiece of his campaign. I mean, he came down the golden escalator. I mean, he had all these, soundbite moments. At the
Can we put this down in the corner? Would this be better in the
sending their
corner?
worst, they're, bringing crime, they're rapists, whatever.
Well, no, now it's blocking
and I know you're
a
going to
lot
say
of
it's
BNet.
not every Mexican, and I agree with you. It's misquoted, but still, it's a soundbite. It's a really punchy soundbite, and he made it about him and what he said instead of what he stood for. And so I think if you ask a lot of Trump supporters, they don't even really know what he stands for. They just know that he's a charismatic guy that is conservative, and they are conservative.
He just stands for whatever values that they currently hold, to which ask them what those are, and it's kind of squishy.
And so they just, kind of go with what he says, because he's so charismatic that,
People
for example,
grab onto
he's
it.
talking about, the other day, he was talking about the Battle of Gettysburg, in Gettysburg, with people. And these people are pretty well educated, I would say, on the things that happen around them. He just goes on a ramble for 2 minutes, and you can see the crowd behind him. They have no reaction. It's clear that he has no idea what he's talking about. He makes up a quote from
Bruh, at the People's Convention thing or whatever that Charlie Kirk, that TPUSA hosted, my dude was talking about the Cuban Missile Crisis as if it happened last week. And everyone was fucking confused by that. Make sure the cat's, I don't even know where
Robert
she
Lee
is.
in an Irish accent. And then,
Oh, she might be in the
nothing,
oh, she's right there.
Nothing happens. He doesn't get any repercussions for that. They just go along with him. He's like, Gettysburg, wow.
He's an actor.
He's an actor.
He's a charismatic
He does a
car
great
salesman.
job of getting people on his
If
side.
Obama had
doing
said
everything
the Cuban Missile
while doing
Crisis was last week,
Okay, thank you. I
Fox
admittedly
News
got us
would
a little
it would be
off
news on
topic.
Fox
We're talking
News
about
for
Trump
a year.
has weakened democracy. Disagreeers, will you come in?
Kevin Trudeau, Joel Osteen, a little bit. Have you heard that, Joel Osteen?
Oh, you think I look like Joel?
That's a new one.
So you mentioned Trump has weakened democracy because he turned politics into all about personality and attacks rather than policies. I think the reason why you think that is that you are 19. Because as someone who was older, I remember when Mitt Romney was running and it was all about, he said binders full of women. He put his dog in a crate on the car, and we almost had the inverse with Barack Obama. He's so dreamy. He represents hope and change and good.
That's always been a thing. The aesthetics of politicians has always been a thing. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about the like blind faith and fealty to an individual. That is very different.
This isn't a Donald Trump problem. This is a politics problem. And I also think we can't talk about how Trump.
Also, it's not even like, okay, so it's a problem in the sense of like it's not smart and kind of dumb of us, but it's also just kind of how we work as human beings. There's like, I remember being an older person, I remember the conversation during the 2004 election where people would like genuinely say that they would be voting for George Bush because they can see themselves having a beer with him over John Kerry. That was a legit argument people had when it came to who they were voting for president. People have always come up with really weird and like not interpersonal and parasocial like reasons for voting for who they were going to vote for. That's never been new. The difference is that Trump has made it so much more I think so much more about like him very specifically. Like it's not just like the who would I have a beer with. It's on a different level when again you have people comparing him to like Jesus. It's on a different level when a lot of his campaign and rhetoric is all about how much he's a victim and how much he's a victim just like Republicans. It's very they all have such a more parasocial relationship to Trump than Republicans and then the voting public did broadly when it came to Bush and Kerry in 04.
Harsh with the media and his opponents without also including how they have treated him. He's been called a white supremacist, a bigot, XYZ before any of these other stories came to the headlines. From the start, 2016, he was being smeared, as were his supporters, as alt-right racists. I know because I remember this. This was before they had the excuse of Stormy Downs or whatever. From the start, there was an aggressive campaign against him from the media that has absolutely set the tone for how he in turn treats journalists. I think he's not mean enough, frankly. I hate journalists, but I don't think it's fair to say this started with Trump. If anything, he's merely a symptom of a problem that's existed, I would say, almost forever.
Why did they say he's racist? Because Stormy's white. She's white as white can be.
Why did you call him a white supremacist?
I asked her.
You have no credibility to discuss race.
I asked a question.
You said I am not black because I'm up here. You got offended because I said you have the Jezebel spirit.
So
I just answered your question.
Samson, you have an earring, and does Jesus approve of that? Isn't that in the Bible? That men are not supposed to have.
I think you two are.
Anyway, can I ask?
It's not in the Bible.
I asked her a legitimate question.
Okay, so
It's funny that like suddenly things aren't. Do I think that's in the Bible? Probably. I would guess that's probably somewhere in there.
They jumped in with their Thomas spirit. So can I ask you, why did they say that he was? I'm a pastor's daughter. I can quote the Bible probably.
No.
All right, they're talking. Can you tell them to stop talking
Question.
I can please? Why do they call him a racist?
They call him a racist because they're lying fearmongers who want to manipulate the populace into being afraid that he's going to round up brown people and deport them. That's the actual reason.
Well, isn't that the whole mass deportation thing? Just saying, a lot of those people are rather brown-skinned.
The official reason for why they call him a racist is because he's actually taking a hardline stance against illegal immigration, which is not a racist or xenophobic position to have.
It's more than just illegal immigration, though, because he's actually closing the border to more
Definitely
than
a
just the people that he's afraid of coming in, which are the terrorists that are coming from the Middle East, and the cartels that are coming up from the south.
Who's he closing the border to?
China.
Who's he closing the border to?
Pretty much the entirety of Mexico.
I love that she has to put in China because she doesn't. Her politics are literally that deep.
The entirety of Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Jordan, even. Like we had a whole bunch of people that were trying to come in that were literally refugees, and we couldn't even look after them.
Is it the problem? Wait, you don't need to sell me on Trump. I already support him.
I think plenty of people from Iran and Iraq is a great idea. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, and understand this. There was something called the Third Country Act, which has been completely violated under this current administration. If you were a refugee, you were to go over to the third safest country. We have people coming here from China now, and you should know as well as I know that
most people who come from China are usually coming over as exchange students or at least a large majority. We're not getting like some crazy immigration numbers from China. River, you better not be hopping on top of that
Chinese Communist
rig.
Party doesn't just let people leave. We've got military-age men infiltrating our country. We've got NGOs.
You better not go down
in
there.
the Panama Darien Gap.
Go
I've
up
got a friend,
on top.
Ben Berkwam, who
You
makes that journey all the
stay
time.
up at the top.
Women raped, children trafficked. It's not okay.
Uh-huh.
Can I just interject?
Yeah, but that had
Sounds like we need a better immigration system, then,
You're
don't we?
not a Republican.
Can I just interject? Like,
Thank you for
as
telling
far
me
as
what
to
I
the
am.
military, as far as like the military age men thing, with people coming across the border being military age men, like they're also, you can say they're military age men. I know that's something that Dr.
Lake and
Phil goes on about.
Riley.
No, they are military
Lake and
age.
Riley.
But okay, that's one example. How many people?
That's one
How
example.
many
That's one?
people
Let him
come?
finish a thought.
Can I talk, please? How many people come from or that are in America also commit those same crimes? Far
They're
more.
Americans.
It doesn't matter.
It
They
does
still commit
matter.
The crimes.
I know, but if
No, wait. So you don't care about crime now? We don't care about crime? Do you see how like shallow this like it's only crime only matters when it's immigrants doing it? Do you think this woman has ever heard that statistic of foreign-born versus native-born crime? I'm sure she has. I'm sure she's like, but it doesn't matter. Like, if you're an immigrant, then like, if you're an immigrant and you commit crime, you should just be deported. That's what I feel like her position probably is. That's what I choose to believe her position is. No, not under there. No, come here. Not messing
someone
with
shouldn't be
me.
here in the
does
first
matter.
place.
Can I go back to what my point was? Saying that you have military-age men coming across the border does not mean that they're here to do some sort of military operation. The people who are coming across the border that are military-age men are also working-age men that are supporting their families on the other side of the border. Should they be coming across the border?
But if
Yeah,
there are
military-age
5,000
men is
then
like
they could undermine the
a
entire
random.
You think every single illegal immigrant
I did not
coming
say that.
across
I
the
said
border
there are
is just-
only 5
There
to
will be bad
10,000 of them.
actors.
You think
back to
just
the
There will
problem.
be bad
Yeah,
actors.
we're pretty
And again,
deep. We're pretty deep into immigration right now.
Yeah.
But like,
and I've talked to
focusing-
Brandon Judd about this.
And imagine holding that position that you're like, that you are terrified that an 18-year-old came across the border as an immigrant because you're like, what if we let too many of them in? They'll literally take over the country. Ma'am, the American military is the most well-funded military in the world. I think we'll be
Let's
fine.
focus back
The president
on.
of Border
I'd like to
Patrol.
respond to
Like you would only take that position, one of the most hyperbolic, like idiotic positions, if you were a racist.
We've got time for 2 more comments on why Trump has or has not weakened democracy.
So my issue with
Okay,
how,
we haven't heard Travis.
Okay, so my issue with how the argument was framed from you two, sorry to say,
That's all right.
is that Trump isn't the issue. The issue is the decline in religiosity in America and also the proponent of ideologies that are typically atheist, which is the rise of socialism here in America. So you have all of these different socialist factions that are trying to come up and take over.
Let's
the country.
fucking go,
Basically, we see the rise of Marxism.
boys.
That's absolutely crazy.
Socialism
We
W.
see fascist individuals. I know some. It's not pretty.
Scary. I do
yeah.
as well. It's wild.
And especially
Do you think the pro-Trump team would admit that the fascism is coming from within the House? Or do you think they go, no, the socialists and the
when
fascists,
I
same
ask them
thing?
what their specific policies are, some of them are absolutely proponents for socialism.
Yeah.
So I, again, cannot abide any of that whatsoever. For
Oh wait,
socialism.
did he do the thing?
What their specific policies are, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
We see fascist individuals. I know some. It's not pretty.
Scary. I do
yeah.
as well. It's wild.
And especially when I ask them what their
River,
specific
can you
policies
stop?
are, some of them
Stop
are
that.
absolutely proponents for socialism.
Yeah.
So I, again, cannot abide any of that whatsoever. I don't see Trump as being a proponent for either Marxism or fascism in any sort of sense of the word, but he is.
I guess it really just depends on your definition of fascism, doesn't it? Even though fascism, like, as an ideology is pretty squishy, like there isn't really a whole definition that you can give because it's so, it's like, it's like, trying to think of like a food. Trying to think of like a food analogy here. Fascism is River. Fascism is like tofu. It's rather bland on its own. You need to have the country's flavors to really like get all of those elements, to really bring out the flavor of fascism that you're going to have in your country. Because I do think fascism as a movement is like very localized to the country and the countries that it's like cropping up in. They're what's the word? What's the word I'm looking for? They're like specific issues. Rivers. Can you get out of there? Stop. Stop. Get away from the rig. Just beat. No. No. Just get away from the rig. It's an expensive computer.
Isn't going to be the main figure for why the left is so far gone as it has been.
Agreed. But
Yeah,
can I just,
I agree.
No,
Can I just-
no, other people are going to speak. Could I please
go ahead.
respond?
We are
to
far gone.
allegations and
Far gone
characterizations?
in the
just stay-
in
just stay on that
in
topic,
winning.
though.
We're
No,
too
this is on the
sick
topic.
of
I
winning.
came in and
We've
you
won
brought it
too
up and
much.
You called us 9-to-5ers.
Socialism
call
is,
you. I
is
said
here.
No, you said Trump supporters.
Is that a
Because
bad
of-
thing?
No,
Oh, so you're responding.
fair.
You're
I'm
responding.
What's wrong with being a 9-to-5er? 9-to-5ers are the backbone of this country.
responding to exactly
the
what
type
she
of person
said,
that Trump
that
connects
she,
with. that she-
Yeah,
the way
I
you
didn't say
characterized
you.
Trump support. You didn't say
No,
that. You
it's-
did say
this is the
people
last
who
point.
stand
What
for
are you doing?
Trump.
All
And
right.
Lady
No, I didn't-
MAGA.
actually, I didn't
from
say
it.
that.
Let's let
Not
Lady
from behind
If,
it.
MAGA.
if people at home rewind a little bit and listen to what she said.
Yeah.
So basically, I just want you to
Can't keep messing with the computer. Computer is not to be messed with. No, no, no. No, no, no. Go out into the world. Discuss this. Many a time. Okay. What are we at? All right. We're going to finish this section. And, because how much, what are we in? How far are we in? We're about, okay. Yeah, we'll finish this section and then I'm going to finish up for the day because I actually have to go address something on YouTube.
Yo hablo español. I lived in Africa, Ecuador,
I've
France.
lived
I've
all
lived
over
around the world.
Russia.
I know you're fancy. You're not a 9-to-5er. I just want to tell you, girl,
Not even.
do not
Not even.
stereotype.
I'm from poverty. My
I'm
streets are-
talking,
We
honey.
need to
Thank
let.
you.
Go ahead.
We need to hear this point
Thank
out.
you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you.
Go ahead. You're
So I
Miss
just
running
want
a
you.
little bit.
Thank
Seriously, dude. Imagine having to engage in politics with these kinds of people. So much spite, so much
you. Yeah, it's like my
cattiness.
sinner in church, and I know how that feels.
All right, get to
anyway,
your point
I was
already.
trying. Can I talk
You
now?
have to stop.
I know,
speaking.
but she
You need
just
to-
needs to get to the point. It's
No,
like dragging on and on.
No, I'm being very succinct. Actually.
Just say your point. You keep leading into it. Just,
All right.
just
Bro, if you're
move
gonna
on. Just say your
you have to
say your
call them
thing.
too.
Well, you
I
called
just
him a
wanna-
white supremacist.
I just want to hear
Can we
Lady
just-
MAGA
the
finish the
prompts?
sentence, and then we're going to move. to the
I'm
next
going
point.
to finish the
Go.
sentence. The MAGA Trump supporting community is the most intelligent and diverse community I have ever known in my life. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, let's reset.
Cool. Based on college statistics, that's untrue. But you know what?
We gotta
College isn't
reset.
everything.
Our next prompt.
All right. No, we can't do more than that. Mainly because like this is taking. Oh man, holy crap. Okay. Well, that's gonna be it for today. Just out of sheer safety for my will to live, and also I guess I gotta go check something on YouTube. YouTube's being funny. So. Oh wait, the next question is if Trump loses, January 6th will be repeated. No. We'll save it. We'll save it. Okay. Tomorrow. I don't actually know what time stream's gonna be tomorrow. I'm thinking maybe midday. I'm thinking maybe midday again. That's what I'm thinking. I just heard. Oh, it's the vacuum cleaner. Okay, that was a terrifying sound from the other room. Do I have any news for the rest of the for tomorrow? I don't think so. I think we're pretty much good. Yeah. If you enjoyed any of your watch, if you were lurking in the chat, you should definitely hit the follow button. It always helps me out. Helps keep the engine running around here. I know it was a little bit of a drier day for actual hardcore news. Kind of just leaned on content stealing a little bit, but sometimes you just have those kinds of days. Otherwise, I'm gonna get out of here. Everyone have a nice day. I'll see you all tomorrow.